Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to RaceFace.Pro and welcome to round 4 of our LMU Championship right here at the beautiful circuit of Sebring, located in Florida. And honestly, this circuit is an absolute circuit for dreams to be made. Gone and opened up in 1950 as a beautiful circuit where 30 to 50 cars rolled out for the very first time as sports cars ready to race, and on New Year's Eve attracted 30 cars to race in a 12-hour endurance, which has become the Petit Le Mans. It's become that Sebring 12-hour that everyone wants to be in. 17 corners long and has not changed very much since its inception back in 1950. Used to be an airbase in 1941 to 1946 before it was then changed by a Russian-American aeronautical engineer. He looked at the circuit itself, well, looked at the airfield and said, hang on, we can use this. We can make something here better. That we can create an American version of the most prestigious circuit in the world, Le Mans. And by taking some cues from Le Mans, they developed this amazing circuit that we know here today as Sebring. It's a FIA Grade 2 circuit, which means it's able to run NASCAR, it's able to run single-seaters, WEC and IMSA categories without any problems at all. And FIA Grade 1 is allowed to run F1. That's literally it. If you have a Grade 1, you can race it at Formula 1. Otherwise, don't worry about it. But this 6-kilometer circuit is home to round 4 of our championship, and our drivers are out during practice, getting themselves sorted out before they head out to qualifying, all practicing the pit lane. Now, for anyone that's driven on different versions of Sebring, if you're on iRacing, you would know the pit lane to your right-hand side. Literally come out of the final corner, dive right in, park by the wall and keep going. Well, in LMU, works a little bit differently. When you're getting out of the pits, you're going into the pits on the back straight. And that does make life rather challenging because you are heading into that pit lane extremely quickly, and you've got to be wide awake to ensure that you stand at the top. Now, that being said, enough of the history put aside on this beautiful concrete circuit. Let's have a look at our championship standings, as it's Chris Tolles who leads out the Hypercar Championship on 103 points. Herb Bucas follows in second place with Martin Jacobs in third. Our Cadillac driver having to really dig deep to try and move forward. Brandon Kruger, after fighting tooth and nail with Martin Jacobs in the last race, got the upper hand, got a second place, and he is now lying in fourth place on 67 points to Martin Jacobs. 69 points is tied with Herb Bucas. So second place is up to grabs for 3 different drivers. Chris Collison holds on to 5th place with 52 points. Henke van den Berg on 40. Henry Meyer sits on 37. Johan Kleinans sits on 35. Fleming Bauer and Jaco Kutza, unfortunately, DNFs on their part. Looking at our LMP3s, Carl Oosthuizen leads out the pack with 112 points after taking a victory every single race thus far, and hoping to really make it count to fight his way to the top. As our drivers leaving for qualifying as they exit out, heading to the circuit. Dion Kopp sits on 84 points after a second place and 2/3. He manages to hang on with 84 points. Jean Verveers sits with 63 points with a DNF in round 1. Dennis Gillett sits on 48 points in 4th place with a DNF in round 3. And then we've got Lawrence Bonhurst chasing him in 5th place. Anton Numbers in 6th. 7th place is Yuppie Simons, Francois Buerta, Donovan Lair, and Ruben Visser, who we expect maybe going out onto the track at some point. Looking at our GT3 standings, it's Johan Blitnight after a DNF in round 1, but 2 victories thus far, sits on 76 points, tied with teammate Esteban Torres in 2nd place. Conrad Martin holds on to 3rd on 60 points. He's getting chased down by Stanton Augustus. Andre Macheka, who was one of our top drivers in the GT3 in the previous season, sits on 53 points in 5th place. He's getting chased down Buerta on 47 points. Jody Suderman is currently sitting on 45 points. David van Veek on 42. Guillaume Mouton sits on 32 points. On across in our 10th place spot sits on 26. William Wentworth, JD Kildenace are tied in points for 11th and 12th on 24 points. Paul Venter sits in 13th. He's got William the Crunch, along with Bagel Krobler, Marcus Rees, and Grant Leclerc, Rob Funnyheather, and Mike McGregor, rounding out our pack. Now, with that being said, it is a bit wet out there, and drivers are concerned about how this is all going to develop in their driving standards. How are they going to really make it work? Because they've got their wet weather tires on, they're going to try and feel it out. There's a lot of spray coming off the cars, and you can see by Chris Stalls absolutely hanging on tooth and nail at the moment, not able to really get the drive underneath him. He's going to be trying to figure out what is the best idea to stand at the top and whether it's going to be in for the running of him. And at the moment, it's going to be an exciting time for our drivers to really dial in the pace, really start trying to figure out what is going to be that optimum pace to deal with. At the moment, he's got the likes of Johan Kleinans and Karabukas all trying to figure out their times out on the circuit. And we got a couple of drivers joining us in the LMP3s that weren't on the circuit last time around. However, Jean Fiers looking to try and get a little bit closer, and we do see the return of Dennis Gillett, who missed out last week's race. So, times waiting to come on the board so far. Chris Stalls managing to put a time on the board with a 1:59.1. Karabukas up into second place is ensuring that he sits there with a 2-minute dead. Johan Kleinans with a 2-minute.1 on the back of him. David van Veek next across the line for our GT3 class, and he does a 2:14 and still showing what he can do out there. Jean Fiers puts himself up into the top for our LMP3s with a 2:09. Esteban Torres fires back in the GT3s with a 2:12.9. Carl Oosthuizen down in second position of the LMP3s with a 2:14. That matches David van Veek's time at the moment. Jody Suderman, who's out there really putting the hammer down, trying to catch up to David van Veek. Viertia Buerta moves himself up into second place in the GT field with the Delta negative Aston Martin. Not quite having the colours on tonight, but will be looking to fight it out a little bit further with the car as he gets major understeer, trying to bring the car back and fighting through these treacherous conditions. Donovan Lair returns to the circuit after a bit of a hiatus from the world of LMU, and now looking to try and get things going. Oh, just locking up. You can see those front wheels absolutely binding underneath him as he tries to just slow down for the corners and not having the easiest time out there. Willie the Crunch down 11th. Got Mike McGear, Andre Macheka not quite having a good time on him. He's currently in 13th position, hoping to put a time on the board. William Wentworth also trying to do that as well. So, at the top of the board though, it is going to be Chris Stalls, who's hoping to make this work out. Gets really close to the wall and does come across the line and sets a 1:58.4 on the way through. Now, as you go through turn 1, you might notice there's a little cone that sits on the top of the fence, and forever people have always wondered, what is that cone in the world of sim racing? Well, I'm going to break that myth. It's actually to show the apex of the corner. They put a cone in the middle, it's bolted to the fence, and that allows you to see where exactly the apex of the corner is for turn 1, for anyone that is missing out on it. However, one car has got the pressure on them for America, is this Cadillac. Snap oversteer for Martin Jacobs. Pushed it a little too far. Can he save it? Can he save it? Oh, beautiful. That's what we want to see. A full pirouette. Puts himself pointed straight and onwards to go on. Now, I would say that's not quite a black swan from Swan Lake. I would say that's more of the backup in it, but still, major work. Well done there. So you have a beautiful pirouette. Is 0.010 ahead of Crystals. Now, the Cadillac has done really, really well here at the beautiful Sebring circuit on its debut outing. here at Sebring, was later beaten out by the Ferraris in real life racing. Now, we're going to see if that's going to be the case here tonight, if we're going to see the likes of Henke van den Berg going to get a bit closer, or possibly Chris Stalls and Brandon Kruger, who are looking to fight their way up in the Peugeots that have had the worst time out on the circuit here. Kurt Bukes in 5th, Johan Kleinans in 6th, and Chris Collison currently holds on to 7th position of our hypercars. Moving on to our LMP3s, it's Carl Oosthuizen, John Fears, and Dennis Gillett who are running in the top 3. Donovan Leyer currently sits in 4th place, giving it his absolute all out there. Got to take my hat off. Donovan Leyer, for anyone that isn't too familiar of him, is a driver from Logistical Nightmare Racing, but the console division. Has been racing on Gran Turismo 7, moved across to Assetto Corsa Competizione, and now is trying his hand out a little bit more in the world of PC racing, from LMU to iRacing, and at the same time ACC. So multi-sim faceted driver and looking to have a good bit of fun out here. Esteban Torres currently leads out from our GT3 class. Remember, he's trying to get the upper hand on his own teammate that so far has got a DNF once thus far. Pretorius has got no DNFs, but did have a hard time last race out as he sets time of a 2:12.7, trying to push that a little bit more and see where he can make that little bit of a jump. He's got the likes of David van Veek, his teammate, now going and putting in some good times, and it's good to see steady climb for Van Veek. Conrad Martin up into 3rd place with Gurmaton holding on to 4th. Viertia Buerta down to 5th place, is battling his way through. Middle sector was a bit slow, but does improve in the final sector and puts on a 2:14.151. Not quite to Gurmaton's 2:14.013. Macheka going and losing it. Oh, big impact into the wall in the Valentino Rossi colours. Honor Kraus from iRacing last night in an LMP2 car around Spa for Team Tryhard Racing. He's now in the Lexus, pushing himself that little bit more. It's good to see him out there having some fun. A big also shout to Honor Kraus. Thanks for letting me overtake you, bud. You were actually quite fun to get around, and thank you for not killing me up through Eau Rouge last night. I know I was the slowest of the hypercars. Jody Cinnamon, also one to keep an eye out for. Very, very quick driver, just not quite finding a pace underneath him. Paul Fenter and Rob van der Heever are currently fighting for 9th, 10th. Rob still waiting in pit lane. Bluchnote, who's up in Sector 1, up in Sector 2. Can he make it work for Sector 3 to get ahead of Pretorius? Gets the hammer down, really pushing as hard as he can. And this might be a good one, and it is a 2:11.7 for Bluchnote. He moves up to 1st place, getting ahead of both his teammates thus far and hoping to make it work for him. Mike McGear also up in Sector 1, up in Sector 2, a 2:17.2 to beat, and looks like he may get himself into the top 10 if he can keep it all together here. Beautiful exit, puts the hammer down, floors it across. Mike McGear up into 11th position, 2:16.239, ahead of Rob van der Heever. William Crunch trying to get that Ferrari to work with him here at the moment. William Wentworth in 14th position has got Marcus Friesen in 15th as he tries to really get to grips with that absolute beast of a Lexus as it stands. But Crystal's up out of everyone in the middle sector, down in Sector 1. Can he make up the ground in Sector 2 to stretch open the gap any further from the rest of the field? A 157.7 for the likes of this Peugeot. Will we see a 157 dead by the end of this lap? He's going to give it a try. Hooks it in through the final corner. The long right-hander. There's a big bump in the center. You've got to be so careful not to bottom out these cars as he runs it to the wall. Ooh, nearly grazing it and gets himself across the line. A 157.762. Narrowly a little bit quicker, but is still pushing that a little bit further. Take a look over to our virtual grandstands because you absolute legends out there braving the weather conditions. We've got Prisma going and saying, how late does it begin? Well, it begins now with qualifying, and it's nearly over in 4 minutes. you're gonna see everyone moving off circuit. And if you wait 6 minutes, you're then gonna see the start of the race. I know it's exciting. It's always lovely to have a chat to you guys out there. But we are going to be underway under racing conditions very, very soon for round 4 of our championship. Stingers Racing saying, let's go Stingers, send it, Bucas and Collison. Pretty. We're missing Stanton Augustus as one of these favorite tracks, and good luck. And I actually want to try and find out what happened to Stanton Augustus, because that has been on a stellar drive. Last race out, he has had some great running in the order. So, as it stands, young Kleinans trying to really step it up, and he's going to be brawling out with Brandon Kruger. Now, bear in mind, Kruger and Kleinans have fought it out in all the seasons and have gotten to some very close moments. Ever since the Hypercars, these two have had a huge amount of fun. But let's not forget, the last time Kruger and Kleinans were out on circuit together at this very circuit here in Sebring in dry conditions, they tangled with one another and landed up with a DNF coming out on Brandon Kruger due to substantial damage to his car. Now, is that going to happen again? I hope not, as both the drivers are currently on a 1:58.5 as their times. Now, Kruger up in Sector 2 is going to have the run through Sector 3. Got to keep it all together. Can he keep the power down? Oh, a little bit touchy, and there's the wall. Unfortunately, a bit of damage to the car, and throws away that chance. No, he does not. A 1:58.2. Managed to still save it and move up into third place. I thought that impact against the wall would have been it, but might have just been a little bit of netcode that caught him up against the wall. And he's still able to get that car across the line ahead of Kleinans' 1:58.5. Bucas currently sits with a 1:58.6 as he tries to keep the power on. Henke van der Berg and Chris Carlson, they wait in pit lane with a 1:59.2 and a 1:59.6. 1 minute and 44 seconds to go in this qualifying, and no one's been able to kick the likes of Carl Oosthuizen off that top end of the podium. Sector 1 he's up, Sector 2 he's up, Sector 3 is going to be a good one if he can keep it all together out there in the Ligier. Keeps the hammer down, hoping to make it work, really trying to keep the power in as much as possible, and really trying to sink it in as far as he can. And he does get himself across the line with that Ligier JSP 325 2025 model, and up into first place with a 2:06.6, well ahead of the likes of Fafirs at the moment, who's up in Sector 1 by a good margin, but I don't think he's going to have the run to take that first place as yet. But we've been wrong before. His final lap dash, last race, got him into first place and managed to just pip the likes of Carl Oosthuizen. So he's hoping to make it work. Fafirs will be trying to really keep the momentum going. Dennis Gillett will be also, unfortunately, waiting for his time, as he will be waiting in pit lane. Donovan Lair, most of our LMP3s out on circuit. Couple of drivers not here tonight. Lawrence Bonhurst, Francois Buerta, Bago Krobler, Fleming Bauer, Dion Kopp, Yuppie Simons, JD Kildenace, and Jaco Kutzer are not able to see themselves through. It was actually Dion Kopp that put in that last lap dash at the end to get himself up into first place. Last race. Apologies there. Blick Knight comes and makes his way through. Oh, he was up in the middle sector, and he decided, nope, he's going to park it, and has done enough to hold that first place with a 2:11.716 to Esteban Torres' 2:11.732. And what a run on his part. Jody also pitting, and Paul Fenter as well. As drivers all been informed, saying you have crossed your time for qualifying, and they will do an RTG, in other words, return to garage. They'll tow themselves back. Max Friesen comes across the line, does improve his lap time. A really good one in the final the second and final sector, managing to get a 2:20.126. So a good time for Max Friesen. Good to see him out there having a bit of fun in some very treacherous conditions, folks. But with this being said, it's round 4 of the championship. And for round 4, we decided to spice things up. Now, if we go back to our race, if we think back to it, in round 1, we had an 80 minutes at Silverstone. We had a 60 minute in round 2 at Imola. Portimão was a 60 minute as well. And then we moved on to an 80 minute here at Sebring. 1 hour, 20 minutes worth of racing. The pit stops are going to be crucial. The question is, who's going to be changing tires? Who is going to be pushing out a little bit further? And fuel usages are hectically changed with the conditions. You're not on the gas as much, and that applies for both virtual energy and for how much fuel you got in the tank.
Go to the grid for a race start.
As we get clearance from race control saying we're going to be heading to the grid for our start of the race. Let's take a look at our starting order. As it's going to be Chris Stols who will start out the blocks in first place, with the likes of Martin Jacobs chasing him down. Second place will be going to Brandon Kruger, followed by Johan Kleinans, Kurt Bucas, Henko van der Berg, Chris Carlson, Jakob Kutzer, Fleming Bauer. Moving on to our LMP3s, Carl Oosthuizen, Jean Verveers, and Dennis Gillett will be running first top 3. Donovan Lear will be rounding out our LMP3s. Unfortunately, Francois Burt, Dion Karp, Lawrence Bornhurst, and Joppie Simons not on the grid this evening. For our GT3s, it's Jan Blicknote, Estienne Pretorius, David van Veek, Quim Matan, Viertia Buerta, Conrad Martin, Jody Sederman, Paul Venter, Arno Kraus, Andre Macherka, Willie Lagrange, Mike McGeer, Rob van der Heerde, along with William Wentworth, Max Friesen, rounding out the pack for our GT3s. JD Kildenace and Bego Krobler not on the grid this evening, and we'll be waiting for everyone to see how the points are going to play out here at the beautiful circuit of Sebring. 80 minutes worth of action. 80 minutes to really fight for the points and who can win this championship for Season 3 of our LMU Championship is about to begin here at the beautiful circuit of Sebring. And we will be going and seeing who will be able to brave these harsh conditions here at Sebring as that spray is thick. You do not want to be the car sitting at the back and getting a face full of this absolute torrential rain that has come down and now made life a little bit more interesting around a circuit that is a mixture of concrete and tar. There is next to no grip, and our hypercars are going to be the first one to feel it as Chris Stols, Martin Jacobs, two rivals set to battle off here tonight. Who is going to have the advantage to ensure they get the run into turn 1? Stols and Jacobs geared up and ready with the likes of Kruger and Kleinans as they launch off the line. Stols is able to get the jump this time round. Jacobs trying to go around the outside and going to really keep the pressure. Swings it around the outside to try get his way by and just has to battle his way through. And Stols losing out. Martin Jacobs up into first place. And it is a bit of chaos at the back of the pack for our GT3s. Dennis Gillett getting sucked in as our LMP3s have had a little bit of a moment. And that is Dennis Gillett now trying to carve his way through. Paul Venter getting all out of shape. Arno Kraus looks up on the inside of him. Estienne Pretorius, who was starting up at the top for our for our GT3s, now down into 8th position and trying to pick himself up off the floor after a bit of a chaotic start for him. Kruger fights it out against Kleinans and Henko van der Berg as Stols and Jacobs pull away. The spray blocking out the cameras for our hypercars. And the likes of Carl Oosthuizen dealing with Verveers all over the back of him, trying to figure out how can he get the drive. There's ice cold tires here at the moment. There is no tire warmers on these cars on the start, and these drivers are having to really try and generate any heat as possible as Conrad Martin's got Paul Venter hunting past him. And there's Dennis Gillett, unfortunately lost it into the wall and is down the order. Paul Venter and Esteban Pretorius now trying to get the run on the likes of Conrad Martin ahead. The Ferrari 296 battles against not only the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, but against the likes of the Lexus that has got tremendous straight line power to it. That small block V8 is able to generate so much drive underneath it. And right behind them, there's Andre Macherka at what was first place, the likes of Johan Bluchnote, who is down, miles down. Taking a look over to our virtual grad stats, we've got K&H Motorsport saying how's it, putting in the support for each of the drivers. And to see a lot of our friendly drivers out there, like Donovan Leyer, who is running in third place in class at the moment. Dennis Gillett down the order. Further up from him, there is Rob van der Heever trying to figure out how to get the drive on Mike McGear and the likes of Marcus Friesen ahead of him as they enter the long right-hander. Ice cold tires, and it is slippery out there. Everyone just trying to figure out what can they do to gently tiptoe at the moment. Martin and Paul Venter continue on the charge. Oosthuizen trying to open up the gap to Jean Verveers, but it is Mon Jacobs and Chris Stolz that are now closing the gap between one another to see if they can fight out for that top spot. And there is a little bit of orders coming in from the team of Stingers of just keep close to one another, make it work. Brandon Kruger down into 7th position. Hasn't had the easiest of runs as well, slipping and sliding, costing him time. Carl Oosthuizen and Jean Verveers continue out their charge right into that spray. The RTA driver sinks in a little bit deep. Here comes Jean Verveers, tries to go around the outside and try to get the slip back in. Unfortunately, no run to make it work out in his favor. Will have to sit that little bit longer. Conrad Martin breaks away from Paul Venter, hard on the brakes, and sees Esteban Pretorius. Slams right to the back of him. Under braking, he's bringing likes of Blicknote and Macherka in full play as well as they continue on their charge. Now, for likes of Blicknote, he really wants to stay on the back of Esteban Pretorius because scoring points in the championship is between the two. Andre Macherka losing a little bit of drive, keeps an eye on what he needs to do. Dennis Gillett into the pit lane, trying to do some repair work to his car after that little bit of impact up against the wall. Making their way around the corners, it's going to be laid on the brakes, swinging in for the long right-hander, and then feed the power on down the airstrip straight. And this is where it gets rather exciting to just keep in the slipstream, pull yourself along, aim for as late as possible into the long right-hander. You look for the third line, you just tip the car in, swing it down the gears, into third, into second, bring it as close as you can without catching the bump on the inside line closest to the wall. Bring it right out and keep your foot on the gas all the way through. And it's being shown by each of our drivers. Rob van der Heever, the Griffin Sim Racing team, keeping ahead of William Wentworth at the moment, who is a little bit down the order, trying to take a little bit of an early run. Can't quite get it working out in his favor, and we'll have to see what's going to be the plan here. Esteban Pretorius and Blicknote now catching up to one another. Got to be so careful, because if they hold each other up, like what we just saw there, Blicknote not getting the drive, is literally hunting left and right at the moment. And this has got to help out the likes of Andre Macherka a little bit further back, who wants to see if he can make this distance work in his favor to the RTA team. Blicknote's going to go for the inside under braking. He does get a big send on the inside, and it looks like Pretorius also lifted to allow him to get through into the hairpin and gets it through without too much of an issue. Pretorius not pushing too hard at the moment. Going to rather utilize the drive of Blicknote to seal their fate, to push a little bit closer. But they're going to have to clear past Paul Venter at the moment and Conrad Martin, who holds on to 4th and 5th position. Baton up to 3rd, Viertier into 2nd, David van Veek out in 1st place. For our GT3s, for our LMP3s, it is the likes of Verveers ahead of Carl Oosthuizen. Oosthuizen seeing the fastest lap time of the race previously, now hopes to try and keep that going as Blicknote gets right onto the tail seeing how he's going to go for it. Late on the brakes, couldn't quite get this in. He's going to try and put his nose in. Side by side they go, over the curbs, in through the long right, and it's going to be feeding the power on. And the likes of Paul Fenter really ran it in a little bit tight there. That's cost him time. Middle of the circuit he goes, trying to keep into the slipstream of Conrad Martin to try and open up the distance to the likes of Blucknote, who looks for the inside just to move out of that spray, spot his brake marker, hooks it back in, gets himself sorted, carries the momentum through, and seeing if he can dig in that little bit deeper into the defense of Paul Fenter and to Conrad Martin. He wants to try and keep as much as possible out of that very, very thick spray that is costing him a bit of time, and that visibility not quite working up his alley. Moving back up to our hypercars, Brandon Kruger finding out against Singers Racing. Gerrit Bukes all over the back of him, trying to see where he can take up the climb. Where can he figure out the drive on Kruger's car as he lays on the brakes? A bit too late there, sunk it in way too deep, cost himself a bit of time, and that's brought Henko van der Berg back into play with his Ferrari, looking to try and make it work in his favor. Back to our GT3s as it stands. Paul Fenter dealing with Blucknote. These two, a long, long history in the world of ACC. Well, looks like it's a short history here in LMU as Blucknote fed the pressure on. Let Paul Fenter run into a little deep into the corner. It cost him time, and now looks to try and open up the gap and get onto the back of Conrad Martin. Esteban Pretorius, after a little bit of a rough one, now trying to pick himself off the floor, but we did get a look. That's Donovan Leah, who has lost the car and got some serious damage to the back of his LMP3. Will be trying to keep going. Dennis Gillett on the back straight, looking to try and claw back a bit of time, and possibly will be going to get himself a third place in the LMP3 class. As our drivers now just trying to see what's going to work out in their favor. Blucknote closing up the gap to Conrad Martin at the moment. Blucknote late on the brakes, opens the corner up, gets flat onto the gas, try and get as much drive onto this long straight as possible. David Van Veek in pit lane. Interesting stuff from our Porsche driver. And quickly take a look. This is a bit of a weird pit stop for him, and is now throwing him down the order from first place. He has now shot down the order and really taking a bit of a suffering point there. Not quite sure why on earth he would have done that. Possibly scored some damage during the course of the rain. Blucknote looked to go on the inside, second guessed it, waited for his time. He's going to try and swing it through around and get the drive through into turn 2. Conrad Martin keeps a solid defense. Paul Fenter has got Esteban Pretorius, and take a look. Our international driver here in RaceFace.Pro. It is Andre Macheka, who is all over the back of Pretorius and knows him rather well. Macheka and Pretorius fought each other out previously in the world of LMU and fought it out against Carl Oosthuizen last year. Now looks to see what he can do. Paul Fenter guards the inside line. Pretorius is going to pressure him late into the brakes as Conrad Martin loses out to Blucknote. Paul Fenter runs it in a bit deep. He's able to get the drive back on Pretorius, who gets some serious drive out of the corner. Going to go around the outside, no room to go. And Macheka tried to look to get around the outside of Pretorius, and unfortunately had to get on the anchors because Pretorius needed to slow that little bit up. Oh, Paul Fenter sunk it in a bit deep and lost out to Pretorius, and now fighting out against Andre Macheka, who dives out wide, giving some room. Side by side they go, late under braking, and it's going to be Macheka to try and hold that apex, but Paul Fenter curbs himself right the way through. Couldn't quite get the drive on the exit, and now slots in to 7th position. Everyone trying to figure out what can they do here tonight. Who can move forward up in the championship around all classes. But at the moment, it is Martin Jacobs who looks to open up the distance at the moment. He's got the likes of Chris Stills running 2 seconds back from him. Johan Kleinans holds on third with Brandon Kruger into 4th place. as they're starting to slice their way through the field, and I do suspect that here was the Porsche that we saw slightly in shot. And yes, it is. That's David van Veek, who was our leader of the race, went into the pit for some rhyme or reason, and now getting overtaken by Henko van den Berg, who really gapped it around the outside as they're starting to slice their way through the field. Next up, Rob van der Heever is going to deal with the first of our LMP Hypercars to come into play. Jan Blichtnoot and Creamonton now fighting out for second and third place in class, as it's going to be right over the curb for Blichtnoot, hoping to get the drive. Maton's going to say, no thank you buddy, I'm going to keep that drive. I'm going to ensure to make this BMW as wide as possible and make you really, really earn that spot. As they continue to figure out how can they keep it all together. William Wentworth getting overtaken by the likes of our GT3 pack as Conrad Martin keeps an eye on the running. Mike Nagier, unfortunately a DNF for him, will be sitting out of this race, and that is a gut-wrenching blow for him, and now needs to try and figure out what to do. Now, going in, taking a look, we've got our pit wall exclusive for the RTA driver, and it's good to see him out there, old Hermit going and saying, David started with 6 laps of fuel, forgot to fill up after qualifying, and that's why that pit stop, that abnormal pit stop, came to be. Now the question is, will he need to pit again after having to put some fuel back into the car? We're going to ask the RTA drivers on that one. Otherwise, David van Veek has got a long time in the car to try and see what he can do to keep moving forward. Blichtnoot keeping on the gas as that spray has dissipated here around Sebring. It's a bit of a greasy circuit at the moment, but drying up beautifully here at Sebring. Maton not getting off that racing line, continuing to drive on. Now, as the track is starting to dry up, grip levels are starting to get better and better, but there is one fatal problem that comes in when you start running wet weather tires around a dry circuit. You're about to turn these wet weather treaded tires into aeroplane tires in a flash. So you start hunting for those puddles around the circuit and hoping to try and cool them down, because your temperatures have a monster spike. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 degrees up. You can go a lap and pick up 10 to 12 degrees temperature easily without catching any of those puddles, and that starts to destroy these tires rather quickly. It also lands up with you losing a lot of time on the process. So you got to be so careful of what your game plan is, and you got to also think about not going and being too aggressive at the moment. You got to think about where you're going to be in this race, as we do expect a lot of the drivers would have aimed for that 45-minute mark. They will have to start thinking, hold on, got to dial it back a little bit here to see if it's going to work out. Well, taking a look at Maton and Blichtnoot, however, they are absolutely holding on for dear life against one another. They're fighting tooth and nail, and possibly this is starting to kill off those tires as that very dry line starting to show up yet again. And a big look for Blichtnoot trying to go around the outside. Has he got the driver? Unfortunately not. Maton continues to hold on to that second place at the moment. Blichtnoot once again trying to look to get that little bit deeper. Esteban Pistorius clears Conrad Martin. And now we'll be looking to catch up to these duo, who are fighting it out tooth and nail. Conrad Martin staying on the back over to the likes of Pistorius. Will be really hoping to do exactly that. Keep on the back. Pistorius to the right-hand side, hoping for a look into the long right-hander. He's also fishing for a little bit of cold puddles kicking around, and just outbrakes himself a little bit and sees the likes of Maton able to get a little bit more of a run. There is Martin Jacobs, who is absolutely flying here tonight in the Hypercar. Sees these two battling out, has to pick his line, launches past. This is going to open a small, brief moment for Maton to just get a little bit of air away from Blichtnoot, He will utilize that little bit of a toe, but now Crystals comes into play as he hunts for the inside line, puts his nose in, has to second guess as Blicknote closes that door firmly, saying, you're not going to clear me there, you're going to have to wait. Well, it's going to be a big look for Crystals again. Forces Blicknote out a little bit wide. Down the straight they go. Blicknote, no room to get on by, and this is going to allow Maton to have a little bit more breathing room yet again to continue that little bit forward. Pretorius dealing with Conrad Martin and Macheka, who also had to deal with the hypercars coming through them, and now close on one another and trying to figure out what is game plan. How far are they willing to go? A little bit further back, a bit of an interesting race. Willie the Crunch and Rob van der Heever continue on their charge with a great race for 10th and 11th in class, with Rob van der Heever of Griffith Sim Racing Team not able to clear Willie at the moment, who holds on to that 10th position. Sean Fierce keeps ahead of Carl Oosthuizen for now in our LMP3 classes. Is the first time that Carl Oosthuizen really on the back foot for the start of the race, and now trying to figure out what can he do to get the run. Oh, big miss coming in for Maton. Went out wide, and he's now lost out not only to Blicknote, but he's lost out to Macheka as well. Hinko van der Berg slotted in between them, got involved in that mix, and now it's going to be a whole run through as the likes of Blicknote lost out time. Conrad Martin back up into third place. Pretorius into second. Viertia Buerta leads out the pack. It looks like our hypercars playing a little bit of an interesting game in the GT3 class, bringing it all back together and switching out those positions. Hinko van der Berg hooks it in through the long right ahead of the likes of Estia Pretorius, and will be carrying his way through. Checker holds on to Blick though. Brandon Kruger slots himself by, giving his absolute all, hunting for any opportunity to close up the gap at the moment, as he's got the likes of Johan Kleinert just doing everything what he can to move forward up through the order. Conrad Martin trying to figure out where he can pick up the drive. Donovan Lair, Robford and Ruberton going into the pits. And I think it was a drive-through for Baton. And it does look like it was a drive-through for Baton. And unfortunately, that has took him right out of the race. But we also do see a car in the pits. And that is Henko van der Berg, who is currently sitting in pit lane, not having an easy time out there in the hypercar class. Martin keeps the fight up with Blicknote as they hold on for third place in class. And it looks like Blicknote going to try to go for the inside. A big look, a big lunge. Can he get it to work out in his favor? Holds over the curb and immediately has the likes of Conrad Martin looking left, looking right, trying to get the drive on him. Can't see any way past. And now it's going to be the likes of Therapeutics and Chris Collison. They're going to have to try and slot their way through without costing too much time to our GT3 cars and to themselves, as our Stingers Racing opening up some room for one another. Conrad Martin loses out the drive to Blicknote, and now it's Andre Macheka onto the back of him, and see where it's all going to work out in his favor. Now, I do want to also go back to this driver here, our first place to the bottom of the grid, and now trying to push that a little bit harder. Has got a bit of a change up in how they've set these cars up. He's out there on dry tires and is hoping to go and save some fuel as well. So braved the conditions through the greasy weather, swapped out the tires, and now looking to make it work out in his favor. However, Pretorius and Blicknote continue on their charge, trying to see what is going to be the big run through the order, as we do get confirmation of what tires everyone has got on the cars. It's wet weathers for our cars out on track, but the only one in our GT3 field that we know of is David van Veek, who is on a different strategy to the rest of his team, sitting out there with the likes of wet weather tires. So that's likes of Maton, who's also gone out on dry tires. So this is interesting. Switching out, Maton has decided he's going to take the different approach and go out to the set of medium dries as well. David van Veek, who is currently ahead of him, currently holds on to wet weather tires, so he has not changed tires. Interesting. So David van Veek is still on a wet set of tires on his car. Maton is the only one that is on a dry set of tires. As we do keep an eye out on Taurus and Blicknote, they're running in sequence at the moment, not pushing too hard. Take a look to our Hypercars, and an interesting show of approach for them as Kleinans into the pits. Jakob, Stalls and Kruger continue out the drive. They're on wet. Lucas into the pits, and Chris Collison, is he going to dive into pit lane as well? No, not this time round. We do, however, see our LMP3s coming in as Jean Fiers continues out his drive at the moment and will be pushing those wets just a little bit further into this race. Carl Oosthuizen holds on to second place, but however, we did see not Dennis Gillett, but into the box, Donovan Lair, who's up on jacks, swapping out those tires, and will be heading back out onto the circuit. Henko van der Berg trying to slot himself back into the race as well, is currently lying 14th overall on the same lap as Andre Macherka and other GT3 class cars that he's now trying to gut his way through and not having a easy time on the way through. Kleinans switching out to a set of mediums as well to try and push out a little bit more. So drivers starting to think about that strategy of what can they do to make up time here, especially on a circuit that has gotten rather dry here at Sebring, and everyone looking for that competitive edge as they continue on the battle. Well, that being said, Martin Jakob seeing in his lap time as the best is a 157.2. Chris Stalls has set fastest lap time in the race with a 156.640. Brandon Kruger holds on to third place. Chris Collison on to fourth with Johan Kleinans, and Claire Bucas currently holds on to sixth position in class. First in our LMP3s is Jean Fiers, along with Carl Oosthuizen in second place. A little bit further back, 2.6, nearly 3 seconds back, so not having an easy time out there and trying to pull it back together. Dennis Gillett and Donovan Lair currently running third and fourth at the moment as they cycle the way through, and Donovan Lair in through the dirt, just trying to keep that car up and going and not having an easy time out there to get to grips with the car. Viertier Buerta holds on to first place for the Delta Negative team. He's got Johan Blicknote in second place. Esteban Torres holds on to third in our LMGT3 cars. Conrad Martin in fourth place, not too far off the back of him. Keeps a very close eye. Andre Macherka, Paul Fenter are running fifth and sixth. Arno Kraus, who sees Jody in his rearview mirrors, and Jody Cinnamon now seeing as our drivers hunt their way through the order. That is Jan Kleinans trying to make up some time after his pit stop. And a little bit further back from Jody is the likes of Rob van der Heever, who continues on the charge. David van Veek hunting away at the moment. Now just opening up the gap for Martin Jacobs. Sees him going around the outside. The question is, those tires are absolutely starting to cry at the moment, and everyone's starting to feel that grip level not go and taper away too much. It's starting to go off the end of a cliff. It's starting to just absolutely plummet to earth with no parachute, jumped out of a perfectly working aeroplane sort of style. And these are when life gets a bit tricky in all the cars, especially the prototypes that are really relying on that mechanical grip around the circuit because of the nature of the track. You don't want to run too much aero to try and push these cars to the ground. You want to ensure that you're as flat as possible, reduce that drag, and allow for as much drive to get yourself going. And that's also what our GT3s are going to be facing as well, as they got considerable more weight than the rest of our hypercars and our LMP3s. They're looking at about 1.2 to 1.3 tons wet weight, as our drivers will be dealing with that, and it will be inducing some serious understeer. You might even get to a point where you're facing understeer and oversteer. So understeer heading into the corner and oversteer as you get onto the gas and try to get the drive out, as Jody is just trying to get the drive on Otto Kraus. Looks around the outside. Can he make this work? Side by side they go, and it's going to be Otto to try and keep it. Oh, a little bit of contact between the two. Otto does bring it back as Jody misses out the corner, lands up into the weeds, and Otto Kraus says thank you very much. He carries on his way, and that was also William Wentworth just ahead of him, who's a lap down. Now looks to try and follow through against the Lexus ahead of him of Otto Kraus. Now, this is going to be an interesting run, as William Wentworth holds on to 14th position, but if he can keep pace with Otto Kraus at the moment, means that he can probably pick up some good time out on the circuit as well. Donovan Lair back into pit lane to get another pit stop underway, not having an easy time out there, and will be driving. This is a drive-through by the looks of it for Donovan Lair as he tries to make his way through. No, it is going to be a pit stop to work on the car. So into the boxes, slows it down, brings it to a stop, up on the jacks, moves it in, and will be getting some work done to the car as well. They align the car. Very interesting stuff as they align the car to get them rolling, and that's something that we don't usually get to see in the Sims. So you normally point dead straight, you go and drive, and that's it, you ghosted. However, this time around, you don't have that run. It goes back to the normal in terms of real racing. Ton clears Willie the Crunch, who outbraked himself, and we do see Jody into the box as well. So drivers starting to move over onto those dry tires, which is leaving a good number of our drivers to really dig deep at the moment. And one of the drivers, Martin Jacobs, starting to feel that pressure. Chris Collison coming into the box, as it does look like a set of dries have been put on Crystal, so he decided to get into the box and now trying to fight his way through, and will be pushing a bit harder as he gets past the likes of Chris Collison, who is now getting himself sorted. So the only driver who is out in the top three, still on a set of wets at the moment, is Martin Jacobs, who's going that extra mile. He wants to try and carry that pit stop as late as possible, fighting tooth and nail to get the grip. As he swings around the outside, he does have Jean Fiers, leader of the LMP3s, following him through as they try to clear some of the traffic of our LMGT3. Viertier Buerta pulls into the pits from first place and will be swapping out as well. Blichnote taking the lead back in the race has got Esteban Pretorius on him for second place, and we do see the Stingers racing. Chris Collison trying to hunt his way around and does get some clearance to carry on the chase as he wants to try to close up to fellow teammate Philip Bucas at the moment. Conrad Martin and Andre Macheka close to one another to push that a little bit more. Viertier Buerta still stationary in pits, puts on a set of dries and waits for his time to get going. Waits for his time to go for that final push, and looking to see it through to the end with 15 minutes to go and plenty of racing around this circuit here at Sebring. Our drivers look to really dig that little bit deeper to see how far can they take it. Now, let's talk a little about our virtual energy, especially in our hypercars, because hypercars can regen under braking. However, take a look at the likes of Jacobs. He sits on 44% with 15 minutes remaining and will need to pit and change tyres. Those wet weather tyres are not going to last him for the remaining parts of the race, as he slaughters them at the moment, trying to open up the distance to Stolz. Stolz has done a pit stop, Kleinans has done a pit stop, Kruger's done a pit stop, Bucas and Chris Colson have all done a pit stop, and now above that 50% mark, and you can see how Martin Jacobs is battling to keep that car in check as he has it snapping around underneath him, trying to figure out how can he get that extra push, how can he keep that nearly a minute gap to work out in his favor and to see where they're going to get that climb or loss. That being said, let's go quickly take a look at our hypercars and see how many positions gained and lost were had by our drivers thus far. Jacobs was up one, Stolz down one, And Kleinon's up 1, followed by Kruger down 1. Bucas exactly where he started. Collison up 1. Van der Berg down 1. Moving on to our LMP3s. And it is going to be for Fears up 1. Oosterhuizen down 1. Dennis Gillett and Donovan Lair exactly where they started. Continue on their drive. And as we jump to our LMP, our GD3s, as we do see Andre Macheka and Pretorius pull into pit lane, it is going to be Conrad Martin up 5 positions from where he started. Fenter up 6. Kraus up 6. Macheka, Pretorius, Blicknote all in the pit lane. They'll be dropping. Buerta down 2. Maton down 4. Sidiman down 2. And likes of Rob van der Heever currently down 3. Van Wyk down 8. Lagrange down 1. Wentworth, Friesen, Kildenes, Krobler all into pit lane trying to get themselves sorted out. Well, that being said, Kildenes and Krobler actually not in the race and will be missing out crucial points. Unfortunately, Mike McGear is our only car that is retired due to significant damage to the car and will be watching from the sidelines. Never an enjoyable thing, but is still supporting all the friends out there saying, come on guys, you got this. Keep that push. Keep going. We want to see you guys get it through to the end no matter what. We want to see the racing continue here at RaceFace for round 4 of our LMU Multi-Class Championship. Pretorius and Maton following suit within a second of one another. Currently hold on for the top 5. Looking to close up to the Delta Negative / LNR driver. The lent or borrowed driver, I would say, to Delta Negative. Vietia Buerta. And take a look at the aggression coming out from Maton off the wick. Is now looking to get the drive. And Pretorius having to go very defensive. Holds it inside line. Maton's going to go around the outside. He's going to absolutely give it everything he's got. Now Maton landed up. Not able to finish the race last time out due to a failure. Pretorius was able to see it through to the end, but had to limp his way through. Now they're in an absolute brawl, trying to figure out how can they get the drive on one another. Looks around the outside. Can he get his foot down as far as he can on Pretorius? Takes the dive. Can he slow the BM down enough? And he does. He holds the apex. Pretorius, no answer there. Has to wait it out. And they immediately have one of our Ferraris, our 499P Hypercars coming through. And is that Henko van der Berg? No, that is Jan Kleinans, who slots his way through, has an easy exit for likes of Maton, and that has unfortunately turned it on its head for the likes of Pretorius. Arno Kraus and Paul Fenzer up and down on the jacks. They try to get themselves going. Conrad Martin will be itching to get back out on circuit. We'll see Vietia Buerta closing up at a rate of knots. Buerta looking to try and get back into first place. Will race down the back straight. We'll see the likes of Carl Oosterhuizen leaving the pit lane. Vietia Buerta retakes the lead of our LMGT3 class. Maton will take his place in second place along with Estian Pretorius in third, who's got Conrad Martin, who battles his way through. Macheka slots his way and gets past. Paul Fenter on a cross will follow suit. Jean Verveers continues his way around the circuit at current in the LMP3 with a good gap to the likes of Carl Oosterhuizen, who holds on currently for second place. Dennis Gillett ahead of Donovan Lair at the moment between them. And to our hypercars, Martin Jacobs still stretches the gap further on wet weather tires to Chris Stills, who is absolutely giving it everything he can. The last lap time is a telling story, and Stills has really pushed that little bit more. And you can see for the likes of Martin Jacobs and for Chris Stills, there is a 7-second difference between the two. The gap is shortening significantly between them, but it is going to be a close run with the likes of Chris Stills eating into it at a rate of knots. Jacobs, who's trying to go that little bit further in the race for that final pit stop and is hoping that he can change the tires, get off these wets, and oh man, he is absolutely sending it. There's no more treads left on there. That's biting to canvas. And that is going to be a Cadillac hurting at the moment. Blicknote and Fenter trying to get their way around the circuit. Blicknote, who originally started up at the top, now he deals a little bit further down. Paul Fenter in 7th position does have the Siggers Racing Hypercars coming by, and I do suspect that was Chris Collison, yes it was, who made his way past. Couldn't quite clear the likes of Blicknote. He holds his line, says no thank you buddy, you're not going to get me there, and opens up the gap yet again, looking to try and get the run through the order. So drivers pushing for the last 42 minutes of this race. An 80 minutes absolute onslaught. They haven't even reached the halfway as yet. They're about 2 minutes and 50 seconds away from that. But you could tell that each of these drivers have now got their eyes back in for high-speed racing. Carl Oosthuizen, best lap of a 202.7 in the LMP3s. He's on to the back of Maton, trying to utilize that slipstream. They've got the same power, but different power to weight ratio is going to come into play. And a little bit of later braking coming in for our GD3s as they've got ABS and traction control to assist them, especially on that inside line. Carl Oosthuizen not having an easy pass. Will be just having to take a deep breath at the moment. Try and figure out where can he get the gap. Where can he push that little bit more? And how far up the order is he willing to go for his run to retake the lead of the race ahead of Verveers. Vierter Buerta currently leads out our LMGT3 class, with the likes of Martin Jacobs leads out our Hypercar class. Stills closing up 34.9 seconds. Not too long ago, that was in the 50s. Now it is just absolutely falling like a ton of bricks. And I do think Martin Jacobs is only hurting himself right now as he is pushing harder and harder and fighting for grip. He's going to have to get into the pits, change those tires, deal with Stoltz getting on by, and then try and warm up those tires as quick as possible and get back onto the attack, as he will have just enough room to clear the likes of Kleinans, who holds on to 3rd place. Down the gears he goes, hunting for any sort of grip underneath him, pushing harder and harder, and it's still going to be stretching out that gap and attempting to stretch out a gap. It's not working in the favor. Crystals on the dry tires is absolutely drilling him lap after lap at the moment. Kleinans is on a dry as well. Brandon Kruger, Gerrit Bucas, Chris Collison, Henke van den Berg, all sitting on dry tires, finding an immense amount of grip, and they're able to bring those lap times down as quick as possible. Martin Jacobs, who's still sitting in the upper 55s, 56s, he is not able to bring it down to the same level as what Stills, Kleinans, Brandon Kruger are running in the 40s as it stands, at 48, 49 marker, and they are finding just enough grip. Verveers pulls into pit lane, and this is going to be for his pit stop to swap out the tires. And is it going to be enough, or will he lose out to this man over here, who is now busy with Vierter Buerta looking to try and clear? He's also got likes of Chris Collison, who was just hunting his way by. So likes Carl Oosthuizen had to deal with Vierter Buerta for a little bit. That's allowed Maton to get a little bit closer to him, and also likes of Esteban Torres. 40 minutes remaining, halfway mark is here, and it's still, unfortunately for Fears, in pit lane, waiting to get going as he sees the gap narrowing to the likes of Oosthuizen. Is he going to be released out the box as fast as possible to keep ahead of Carl Oosthuizen? He managed to got the lead during the rain, and now it's the dry. He gets released. Ahead of him sits the likes of Dennis Gillett, who will be trying to get the drive, as there in the background, just in shot, we see the likes of Kyle Oosthuizen right behind Verveers, who is now on a set of dries that is absolutely ice cold, and that understeer biting him at current. And here comes Kyle Oosthuizen, who's got the run, gets on by, and Verveers trying to generate heat every which way possible, weaving left and right to build up friction to ensure he can stay in for the fight for the lead of our LMP3 field. Dennis Gillett runs out a bit wide. Carl Oosthuizen swings around, hard braking for the inside line and managing just to keep the drive, and will be opening up that gap a little bit more. Conrad Martin trying to fight it out. Unfortunately, we'll have Blicknote with some serious drive clearing past him. Conrad trying to look for the inside line. Unfortunately, didn't work out there. Had to wait for the opportunity. Paul Fenter having the likes of Jody Cinnamon right behind him. Jody working in that Porsche, trying to see where he can pick up the grip. Where can he get the drive at the moment as he lies in 8th position to Paul Fenter in 7th. Ahead of them, Conrad Martin and Johan Blicknote, as they do see that as Henko van der Berg slots his way through. Oh, under braking. Henko thought about going for that inside line. Blicknote said not going to happen. Does open up the corner a little bit, allows the likes of Henko van der Berg to come on by. Does cost him a little bit of time, but not enough to make that monster impact for the likes of Conrad Martin to close up to Blicknote, who holds on for 5th position. So as we went past our halfway mark, it is Martin Jacobs who continues to stay out on circuit, gets caught behind Dennis Gillett, and yet again doesn't opt to go in pit lane. This is wet weather tires. He is absolutely running the clock as far as possible to see how long can he take it, and unfortunately I think this was a terrible call on his part. He's not able to keep up the lap times needed to keep the likes of Chris Stolz at bay, and will be sealing this Peugeot coming up at a rate of knots, and the likes of the 499 of Johan Kleinans will be a little bit in striking distance. And he is bringing along Brandon Kruger, the RTA driver, looking to really dial in the wick at the moment. Paul Fenter trying to snap that toe to Jody at the moment. It went to middle, went to left to try and see if he can go and cause likes of Jody to have a little bit of error wash underneath him, trying to use any bit of that speed juice possible. But Jody is just soaking it up, applying the pressure and saying, come on, Mr. Fenter, can you keep it going? Let's check how you keep an eye on those rearview mirrors. Looking left, right, and center, and there it shows as Fenter loses his marker in through turn 1. Jody says thank you, and that is a clean pass as they charge on, looking to see where they're going. And a big bounce for Paul as he tries to really stand on the gas, doing everything he can for trying to close up the gap to Jody as it stands. Taking a look over to the virtual grandstands, we've got Tennis Berta coming in from Pandacity, was racing last night at Spa, flies all the way over to the likes of Sebring to come and enjoy the racing out here, support friends out on the circuit, and also is a driver that knows a bit too much of what happens when you take a hypercar like we see Martin Jacobs around Sebring on wet weather tires, only boxing now, 35 minutes to go in a 1 hour 20-minute race. He's going to lose out the lead to Chris Stolz, but knows how challenging it is to keep these cars on circuit and to really push that hard way through. And I got to say, hats off to Martin to really stick it in as far as possible into this race to see where he comes out on wet weather tires. Just getting into the box, switches over the dries. Is he going to be ahead of Kleinans? I don't think so. And this is going to be a loss into 3rd, going to 4th, because here's Brandon Kruger joining in the fray. Martin Jacobs, who was out there in 2nd place, is now down into likes of 4th position and not too far back. Here comes the Stingers Racing. Kieran Bucas hooks it around, in through the left, in through the right, then left, then right again, puts his power down, and will be seeing the likes of Martin Jacobs in that Cadillac just rolling, trying to get going, and he's going to be dealing with ice-cold tires, and there is the pass. Bucas clears the Cadillac and now gains 4th place as Martin down into 5th place. Will have to try and pick his battles, seeing where he can go to really give it everything he's got. That's good to see. Well, while I'm on here, I do want to report, though, I had a good bit of chat with drivers in through the racing, and I had a chat to the Hypercar drivers like Tennis Berta, and I was trying to find out how to get a little bit of pace out. What can you do? Like what we see with Brandon Kruger, just trying to generate some little bit of heat to those tires, that quick movement around him, left and right, see how the car is going to work out. I was giving some ideas of braking that little bit later, where to get that bit of aero and push that a little bit harder. And big shout out to the likes of the Pandacity guys and for the THT team going in and giving a few pointers to that. And Tialis Bertu was waiting for me on circuit, really. He waited so much he had to smash the car against the wall to make sure it was slow enough for me to get anywhere close to him. So big thank you, Dennis. Sorry that you weren't able to see the end, but it was great to see you out on circuit as well. As we keep an eye out for our phenomenal drivers out on circuit at the moment and pushing that a little bit harder in all our classes, from our hypercars to our LMP3s. Oh, that's a big one for Carl Oosthuizen, our championship leader. Absolutely sent to the moon and back. He went to the Shadow Realm. How on earth? This is where I want a replay button. I want a replay button. Ah, so bad. But wow. And that car's able to still drive. What on earth happened out there? Donovan Lair off in the dirt trying to get himself going. There's Dennis Gillett coming on by. But Carl Oosthuizen, a big talking point for him, sent to the Shadow Realm and back with a rollover into the wall. And, well, I think he's got some gremlin damage to that LMP3 at the moment. And it's sitting a bit cockeye on the steering as he tries to bring it back in a bit of a, well, I would say second-hand condition. That is our championship leader who has lost out first place, and depending on the damage on that car, has he opened up enough of a distance to the likes of Dennis Gillett and Donovan Lair? I mean, wow. That was that was definitely, is it a plane, is it a bird? Well, it's a dive, and this is a Cadillac on a Toyota, as it's a big pass for Martin Jacobs, going and saying to Karen Bukes, I'm coming through whether you like it or not. Open up that door, and absolutely barged his way through, complete siege style, got that clearance, and now looks to run away from the Toyota as they get past Conrad Martin. And Kira Bucas, who well done to him, was able to hold that outside line in through the dirt. But what a dive from Martin Jacobs, who's in a chase right now to close up that 19-second deficit to Kruger, who holds on to third and runs up very, very wide. Matan holds the inside line. He says, you're not going to take it away from me. And there is an impact into the wall. That's Dennis Gillett, our third place LMP3, going and getting significant damage to his car and will be needing a bit of work to it. Carl Oosthuizen continues on the drive. I have no idea how that car was able to be sent into the air, roll over, hit the wall, bounce back. Holy moly. That's a rather interesting play. And, you know, honestly, for LMU right now, it is a very, very good sim to go and drive. And it's a great sim to move in, especially from the ACC realm into the world of LMU. A lot of the braking actually fitting into it. But from a broadcasting aspect, it is one much to be desired at this point. There would be a good little bit of work to be done on the web UI to use it for the cameras. But hopefully they will be adjusting that as soon as they put some more into the game. The game is the main core focus. The broadcasting is a little bit on the lesser side as Kiribukes just slings it past Andre Macheco, who's in fourth place of the GT3s. And that was very, very close between them. But good to see him out there. And wow, oh wow, for Oosthuizen, what a drive on his part, and still able to start closing in on Fafier's. Well, attempting to close in as he gives it everything he can to really stand on the drive. But going through the field, leading out our LMGT3, and I know there's a certain someone in a household that is going and keeping himself very, very focused. He's not going and thinking about the buckies in the back that are absolutely to really, really go with, and he is concentrating on the drive, and that is Viertia Buerta right now, the Delta Negative driver, who will be pushing his way on and getting some support from the likes of Anushka Buerta, a fellow commentator in the world of ACC, going and showing that the hubby is pushing that a little bit more in the race. So good to see Anushka Buerta coming in and putting in that support for fellow driver Hamilton. Now dealing with the likes of the Stingers. That is Fair Bukes, who says thank you very much. I'm going to open that door, get on by, and continue to get the drive through. So, as our drivers, 27 minutes to go left in this race. Still lots and lots of pressure coming through. Carl Oosthuizen limping the car, back with the damage. Oh, and just as we cut to him, we talked about limping. He's able to save it from the wall. Cleared. I would give that about I'd say about 4.5. Was a beautiful pirouette, but it did come to a stop. But about 4.5. But what a nightmare race it's turning in for Carl Oosthuizen, where a victory disappears from him, and now after becoming Superman is now trying to fight his way through, fighting to go and give it his absolute all. He's going to deal with Mont Jacobs in the Cadillac, who is on an absolute charge as Carl Oosthuizen opts to go into pit lane. That repair work needs to be done onto the car. Says, let me get it done, let me get it sorted, and I can get myself going. That is going to allow for Fears a little bit more room to really start opening up that run. And for Fears, it's exactly what he needs for the championship to stay in for some good run. He's third place on 63 points. Dion Kopp is not here tonight, is on 84 points. So, for the likes of Dion Kopp, who will be going and trying to figure out what is his big plan. Coming in for race 5, as they will be both on the DNF some point of this race. It is going to be a victory coming in for Dion Kopp for the likes of Fears, which will outweigh. But for the first time this season, our championship leader of Carl Oosthuizen will not be taking a first place in the LMP3 field. And whatever went on to flip that car around and send it to space, well, it's definitely in for a little bit more than just a bit of duct tape to get it going back on the circuit. Andre Macheka finding out against Blicknote on the back of him, trying to deal for the run. And we'll have Blicknote trying to push harder and harder. Blicknote currently holds Voss's lap in our GT3 field, and he is sitting in 5th position. And 203.6 was the 4th lap time of the race. He was up in Sector 3 on that last lap. He's now trying to make it work out to get ahead of Andre Macheka and try and claw back into 4th place as Esteban Pretorius holds on to 3rd. Quiberton holds on 2nd. Viertia Buerta aiming for a victory here tonight in the LMGT3 field. The first victory you would have in all 3 seasons here in the LMU, and looking to really make a big impact. He's hoping for it to play into his favor. Carl Oosthuizen going back onto circuit after his absolute flight to the Shadow Realm, and it's good to see him heading back out on circuit. He won't be taking the victory, but will be seeing it through to the end. As a little bit further back, Conrad Martin and Jody Cinnamon, they have ridden, got back onto one another, and it's going to be Andre Macheka and Blicknote fighting out for 4th and 5th position, as Blicknote really giving everything he's got. Macheka saying, not going to happen, buddy, I'm going to keep my line, going to make you work for this one. And Blicknote hoping to just close up at a rate of knots. It's going to be under braking, down through the gears, hooks it in, 3rd to 2nd. Who's going to have the run? Who's going to start feeling that understeer? And it is going to be Macheka. Tries to bring it back. And there is Blicknote. Runs it out wide. Got some good drive on the exit, but can't quite feed it all the way through like Macherka does, who now still holds on to that top spot. Jody gets ahead of Conrad Martin as we do see Crystal slots himself in between, and that has broken up the fight between Jody and Conrad. Paul Fenter a little bit further back, dealing with Arno Kraus in 9th position as they continue on the drive. I mean, this is going to be an absolute run for the money for 4th place, as Andre Macherka, Johan Blichnout from 2 different countries now brawling it out. The South African looking to take on Andre Macherka, who is going and having a stellar run at the moment and really showing what he can do. Macherka going for that championship, wants to be in for the run. All the way out from the Czech Republic, from Czechia. Andre Macherka takes on the South Africans and puts in a solid fight. Blichnout now clawing, fighting at the heels, seeing where he can go. Can't quite get the pass done. You can see the brakes lightening up on Macherka's car. He throws it out wide. Blichnout does exactly the same. These two are now pushing every which way possible in the BMs. And it's going to be Blichnout looking around the outside, trying to cut back for the inside. Couldn't quite make it work. Macherka defensive, holds that line as they sort out left, right, left, into the long right, down the back straight they go. This is going to be Blichnout to get that drive, hopes to get in the slipstream. They will see that is Henko van der Berg looking to try and clear both the cars. Unfortunately, it wasn't for that inside line, but Chris Stills is cutting his way through and might play into effect for Blichnout to get that inside line on Macherka, who guards it on the way through, coming out of the final corner. And once again, unfortunately, down the straight they go. And the Hypercars, a clean pass. And once again, Macherka going to say thank you very much. He's quite happy on that one. No room for error coming in for our drivers. And not too far back, we've also got a fight for 3rd place as Martin Jacobs and Brandon Kruger are looking to fight for that 3rd place. And Martin Jacobs is not hanging around. 2.7 seconds to Brandon Kruger at the moment as they charge their way through, try to get back on that step of the podium after the long gamble for his time on the wets. For Fears has a lap lead over Oosthuizen, Gillett and Leah, who are holding 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Buerta, Mouton, Pretorius, Macherka, Blichnout currently holding on to the top 5 for our GT3s. And I've got to say, absolute stellar run. We've had small little pocket battles around the circuit. Paul Fenter on across, they also within a second one another. But this is our closest on-circuit fight between drivers as it stands for now. We may see Kruger and Jacobs a little bit closer to go fighting out for that 3rd spot. Oh, big look on the inside for Blichnout. Carried a lot of pace in. Had to really start them feeding the brakes in. Tried to trail brake, tried to force that nose to get underneath Macherka, who was unshaken, not even nerved on the whole thing. He was just keeping it all together and knows if he can slow the pace down, start dictating the corner speeds, that Blichnout will be eating up a little bit of problem. Defends the inside lane. Blichnout going to go around the outside. You can see a little bit of standing water still on circuit on that inside line as they head into the long right-hander who has got the guts. And it is going to be Macherka to carry through, but as he lost out the drive, try to bring it back, and it's going to be a good run for him. And immediately, Blichnout trying to get a exit of note, swings it out to the outside. Not able to get that drive to work out in his favor. Will start looking his way back. But here is the fight for 3rd in the Hypercars as Martin Jacobs catches up to Brandon Kruger in through the long right. Kruger's going to swing, try to see if he can get the drive. Unfortunately, that Peugeot not having the best of grip on the way through, lost out a little bit of momentum, and immediately here comes Jacobs legging it away from Brandon Kruger. So the RTA team watching their drivers fighting for position in the final 19 minutes of the race against Jacobs and Kruger, Macherka and Blichnout, absolutely looking to see how it works their way through. Martin Jacobs with the fastest lap time of the race in the Hypercars with a 147.3, and with Chris Stills currently leading with a 148.082, who is the closest to him. And then John Fierce sitting in first place in our LMP3s with a 157.791. Carl Oosthuizen in second place after that bit of damage to the car. Still circulates. Blichtnote with the fastest lap time in our GD3s with a 203.644. To the rest of the field running 204 as well. It's not having an easy time to put that 203 to good use at the moment, as Andre Macheca has made this BMW as wide as possible, making sure it's not going to be an easy one and clear as they fight their way through. Paul Venter and Arno Kraus, they're within a second of one another and still keeping a great run. Marcus Friesen, unfortunately a DNF for him, and Mike McGear going and getting a DNF as well. So we keep an eye on this battle. Let's quickly take a look at our overall for our Hypercars. It is Chris Stills, Jan Kleinens, Martin Jacobs, Brandon Kruger, Gerrit Bukes, Chris Collison, and Henko van der Berg that currently run in the top 7. As, oh, bit of a mistake coming in for Macheca. And that was Macheca all out of shape. And Jan Blichtnote sunk it in a little bit deep there. And I tip my hat. To Jan Blichtnote there. And you could see Macheca giving that little bit of a wiggle waggle as well, saying thank you for waiting. It's a bit of a gentleman's agreement of drivers saying, listen, if you do land up with a contact like that, you return the position to the person and then you go back fighting. You don't want to earn it by knocking a person out of the race. And a tip of the hat coming in from Blichtnote. Ooh, nearly runs into the likes of Martin Jacobs, who goes around the outside immediately. Blichtnote's going to follow suit as well as they charge on. And I'll get back to what I'm saying right now because this is going to be exciting at the braking. Who's going to get it? Macheca sends it down the inside. Can he get it to stop? Really doesn't battle as he's way through, but it's going to be Blichtnote trying to look for the undercut. Couldn't quite get it done. Immediately back on the drive. And it's going to be a chase all the way through yet again. Blichtnote fights his way at the moment. There's a tip of the hat moment from drivers saying sorry, and we saw exactly that. Wait for the position, return it. Ooh, big moment coming in for Macheca, who's starting to feel that pressure from Blichtnote. The two of them leaning on one another. We'll now see Brandon Kruger next to slot his way through. Kruger will be in communication with Blichtnote saying, okay, bud, wait for it, go, send it, lets the pass, and immediately Macheca saw what was coming, went defensive to hold his line and ensure that Blichtnote doesn't have an easy run past him, utilizing the toe of Brandon Kruger on that way through. Kruger could have lifted and created that little bit of a gap to ensure that Macheca couldn't go for the apex. However, he's also in a bit of a race at the moment, trying to catch up to Martin Jacobs. So it moves on. Maton with Pretorius, hold on for second and third, continuing on their race. Paul Venter tries to keep it all together with Arno Kraus on the back of him. They have for Fears slotting in and out with the LMP3, that JSP 325, trying to give it everything he can. Oh, and really get right into the back of Paul Venter as we do jump back to our fighting duo. And, oh, contact yet again under braking. It's Blichtnote and Macheca not giving an edge to one another, sharing a bit of paint. And it is going to be Blichtnote just ahead of Macheca, only just at the moment. Now immediately kept into tow, pulls himself along. Hard charge on the way through. And Macheca's going to go for the dirt even to see if he could clear on past. Blichtnote held his line, but Macheca was so sneaky on that one, was willing to put it through the dirt to see if he could get the pass, and he does get past the likes of Blichtnote and immediately has the Stingers Racing of Gerrit Bukes getting past him as well under braking. It is going to be a great one. SCR Pretorius and Krimaton fighting out for second and third at the moment as our RTA team continue to fight for positions in the LMGT3 field. All set and done in the LMP3, and it looks all set and done in the Hypercars at the moment for the last 14 minutes. But we are keeping a very, very close eye on a number of battles, and the closest is these two willing to throw it down the inside of one another at all costs. Quinton and Pretorius a little bit more, I would say, safer in their driving compared to the two behind them, but still willing to put it on the line and do everything they can. However, Maton is taking a look to Andre Macheka. I think these two are absolutely willing to bang doors against one another. They are willing to send it deep on one another to try and see where they can get the ultimate pass. Where can they make it work for them? Paul Fenter narrowly keeping ahead of Arno Kraus, having a good drive. Oh, into pit lane. That's going to be a drive-through just as we cut to him. Unfortunately, drive-through coming in for Arno Kraus. As we do go back to look notes and Macheka. I was just about to say, Arno Kraus having the best race thus far this week. Didn't quite have the easiest in the LMP2s. Still saw through to the end, and honestly, very, very proud of the chap for doing so. But we are keeping an eye on 4th and 5th place, who are fighting it out like it's 1st and 2nd at the moment. Both drivers, I will have to point out, are very defensive and aggressive drivers. They are absolutely willing to send it on one another. They are willing to put all the chips on the table, go all in, and go charging for that position. They are willing to really give it everything they got. And if it means they have to do a little bit of rubbing and racing, they are going to do so versus the likes of Matata Pretorius, who are a little bit more relaxed, fighting for 2nd, 3rd, and not wanting to be sucked into this absolute battle, as it will be then from a duo to a quad, and it will be a dog fight of note between them. Blicknote, no room to get on by. Macheka making life rather difficult at the moment, continues to hold his line. Who has got enough in the tank to really make it work? Who has got the chase to make it work in their favor, as it is absolutely tight between the likes of Macheka and the likes of Blicknote, as they do have one of the hypercars taking a look to them saying, listen, I want to get on by, but it's going to have to be on the next straight, because these two are not willing to lose that racing line at any cost at the moment. It's the Stiggers Racing getting by on pure horsepower and ground effects. Clears Macheka and Blicknote. Further up, Quirmaton holds on to 2nd. Pretorius into 3rd, trying to gain points after a nightmare of a race last week. We'll be seeing if it's going to work out in his favor. It's all about the late game. How much are you willing to push? How much have you got? Oh, lock of the brakes for Donovan Leah. He lets the GD3s come on by. Doesn't want to interfere in the race, but will definitely have killed those tires a little bit more. They've gone from beautiful circular tires to, well, lined up like squares on the car with that huge lockup. Unfortunately, no ABS there. You're going to be so careful in doing moments like that, especially in those cars. Kleinutz into pit lane. Interesting to see Kleinutz diving into the pits, and I wonder, has he got a problem? Unfortunately, we're not able to see the energy levels on our LMGT3 class, as much as I'd love to see the virtual energy, see who has got that little bit more in the tank, as it's, oh, big push for Blicknote, as he's right on the tail. Checking this, a bit of a bump draft even, to see if he can try and force a mistake from Macheka. A bit of a clever move here. You start accelerating the car ahead of you by an extra 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. That means their braking marker starts to shift a lot more as well. So you give them a little bit of a bump draft, you come off the gas, you allow them to go that little bit later into the corner and possibly make an absolute muck of it. A look around as Macheka and Blicknote continue their brawl. And Blicknote has got a good drive up on the inside. Can he keep the drive through the exit? As it's going to be Andre Macheka feeding on the pressure and absolutely squeezes Blicknote out. You couldn't get close if you tried between them. And now they got the leader of Crystals who is doing everything they can. As a big look, and we are in for a run, but we've also got a bit of an interesting turn of events because, well, Berta, Pretorius, Blichnout are fighting for the likes of, well, Blichnout and Pacheco are fighting for third. We've lost a driver, and that is definitely a bit of a problem here. So third place now on the line. What on earth happened? Pretorius is there. Berta Berta is ahead. Pretorius was closing down on Cremerton, who is all the way down. Maton is down, and he's in 7th position. So this is for third, folks, in the LMGT3 field. Third place on the line, and this is gonna be a proper run. Oh man, this is gonna be a wild one. Absolutely mental. 8 minutes to go, and man, oh man, Maton into the pits, having to get some work done to his car. He was able to rejoin in 7th, but the question is, Blichnout, who's cleared Macheca, how long these two have been fighting out, have they cost themselves some time? And now third place has opened up. Yo, Clayton clears Chris Collison on the exit through the final corner and continues out the drive. Back up into 4th position, the Ferrari 499P trying to clear the Toyota of Chris Collison in the Stingers Racing as he gives it everything he can. It does look like our battle for Blichnout and Macheca has pretty much checked out for third, as Macheca has got not much left in the tank to try and bring himself that little bit closer, and Blichnout has opened up the gap that little bit further in the race. So, with 7 minutes to go, Chris Stalls leads out our Hypercars. Martin Jacobs into 2nd, Brandon Kruger in 3rd, Jan Kleinutz in 4th place, Chris Collison in 5th, along with Kerry Bukes in 6th, 7th is Henko van der Berg. Looking at our LMP3s, we have got Donovan Leah, unfortunately a DNF for him, and will be out of this race. So it's going to be the likes of Jan Verveers, who currently holds on in 1st place. Carl Oosthuizen, after sent to the Shadow Realm, holds on to 2nd place. Dennis Gillett looking to finish up in 3rd place. For our LMGT3s, it's Viertia Berta looking to take his first victory here in LMU, here at RaceFace. Has got Esther Pretorius in 2nd place, trying to close up that gap of 3.4 seconds. Johan Blichnout up into 3rd place, is starting to break the streak of Andre Macheca. Is trying to break that slipstream. And Andre Macheca, just trying to keep it all together, has the leader of our LMP3s hunting left and right how to get on by. Not able to do it in too easy a fashion. It's going to put his nose up on the inside. Look to try and carry the driver around the outside. That is going to be Andre Macheca down in 4th. Jody Cinnamon in 5th. 6th place is Conrad Martin. Cremerton, Paul Thenta, Rob van der Heever, David van Veek a little bit further back. Arno Kraus out on circuit. William Wentworth and Willie LeCrunch going and holding on to that 13th position. 3 DNFs, Donovan Lamb, Marcus Friesen, Mike McGear in this race. Unfortunately, not going to be seeing it through Crystals, driving through pit lane. An interesting time for him, and is this costing him a bit as he's coming out just in front of Martin Jacobs and will have a little bit of room to play with. The question is, how much drive has he lost out to Martin Jacobs, who's gone that little bit of an extra mile? 5 seconds set 1st and 2nd place, 4 minutes and 57 seconds. It's going to have to be a huge run for Martin Jacobs to close up to Crystals for that 1st place in the Hypercars. Brandon Kruger holds on to 3rd, 12 seconds off Martin's Cadillac at the moment. Maton runs out wide, allows Carl Oosthuizen to clear him. Has now got the likes of Paul Thenta trying to close up the gap, and Maton, who was up for a podium position, however, needed to go into the pits to be getting confirmation for energy to put into his car and able to get going. So they've got a fuel tank that we know puts some 93 or 95 in the cars. and you then keep going. However, when it comes down to the likes of our virtual energy, and that also comes into play, and that's to ensure that all the cars are BOP'd, not only just on horsepower, but also in terms of pitting gets sorted out as well. And the only time you get virtual energy back into these cars to recharge those batteries is once the fuel nozzle is connected and that stuff is running. So you're not able to just keep going under braking like our hypercars that are utilizing a little bit of regeneration under braking that gets fed back into the engines, and pretty much like what you have in the world of Formula 1, the brake harder gets fed back into the batteries and is deployed under power. So they're able to recharge that a little bit more. However, in the LMGT3 class, they're closer to your road-going cars. They have to run road spec to an extent of they have to be a lot closer to their road-going counterparts in weight and in their dimensions and their functions. So that means you can't utilize any hybrid energy in these cars. It's got to be pure combustion to make it work. It's all about putting a little bit of dinosaurs in the tank and burning it through at the end. A bit of a pit for Martin Jacobs, and that's going to be for energy as well. Brandon Kruger getting that as well, as it seems like all the drivers have gone that little bit too far and unfortunately cost them some time. Johan Kleinans clears up into third place as he sees Brandon Kruger just leaving now. Jody Cinnamon pulling into pits. Chris Collison comes into pit lane as well. So everyone has gone that little bit too far, and the planning didn't quite work out for them, as we keep an eye on Esteban Pretorius, who's closed up to Viertia Buerta, and they try to fight their way through him right on the back of Esteban Pretorius, who's actually defending to hold his racing line. Has got John Fears wanting to sneak on by. Pretorius is saying, nobody, no, don't want you there. Please, don't cost me time here. There's a minute 58, and I need to close up this bit of time. As Viertia Buerta looks to hold on to first place, Esteban Pretorius, who's recovering after a horrible run last week. He was able to see it through to the end, but finishing 10th overall, will be finishing up, by the looks of it, in second place. If he can't clear Viertia Buerta, he needs to try and dig that little bit deeper. See if he can get that gap a bit shorter to him. He's got his teammate, Johan Bluknoy, in third place, saying, I am not a concern right now. You need to start focusing on your drive. Baton and Paul Fenter are within a second of one another as they try and close up the gap. Kruger will be looking to clear Paul Fenter as fast as possible, and I've got to say, Paul Fenter, a gentleman to Brandon Kruger. It's a bit, maybe it's just because of the outright pace that he decided he's not going to go and argue with Kruger there. The two of them have butted heads in the past, but it looks like on circuit with these cars, he's going to say, listen, you're a lot quicker than me. You're going to go for it. You're the bigger car. I'm going to stand back and let you go on by. All Kruger didn't give it too much of an option, said I'm flooring it, as we do keep an eye on our race leader overall and in the hypercar class. 33 seconds remain of this race. Chris Stolz, who has done a stellar job to open up the gap and continue to hold on to a solid drive, will be taking a good amount of points home in the championship. A third in round 1 and a first in round 2 and 3 will clear the likes of Martin Jacobs in second place. Karen Bucas, unfortunately, not able to have a good run. Will finish into the top 5 for the Stingers Racing, and unfortunately will be losing that second place spot in the championship. But it is all down to this one corner to go. Round 4 of the LMU Championship. And it's going to be a down to the wire. It's going to be a down to the chase. But it is going to be the hypercar of Chris Stolz who wins the 80-minute race here at Sebring and takes home full points for the championship. Martin Jacobs, looking to and make his way through, will be battling on. But it is a fight for first in our LMGT3s. Viertia Buerta holding on. One corner to go. Getting a little bit out of shape Esteban Pretorius trying to get the drive on him, but Buerta, for the first time in the LMU Championship, will take the victory. No, he's out of fuel! He's out of fuel! Esteban Pretorius got the victory over Buerta. What on earth happened? Buerta had it, and he got blitzed at the line. Pretorius got the victory. No, and Buerta's got his hands off the steering. He can't believe what happened. And across the line, Martin Jacobs takes second. Johan Kleinards got third place. Brandon Kruger, Kieran Bukes, Chris Collison, and Henko Vandenberg round out. John Fierce takes victory ahead of Carl Oosthuizen, Esteban Pretorius, Buerta, Johan Blechnight taking up third place. Andre Pacheco in fourth. Conrad Martin taking fifth. Quirmaton, Paul Fenton, Jody Cinnamon, Rob Vandever, David Van Veek, Arno Kraus, William Wentworth, and Willie LaCrunch round out our 22 cars that finish 13th position for Willie LaCrunch. Dennis Gill, Donovan Leia, Marcus Friesen, Mike McGear, Jaco Kutzer, Fleming Bauer, Franz Buerta. They did not have it all, and what a kill. What a run. And unfortunately, Buerta missing out on the victory by 10, not even 10 meters. I'd say that was about 3 to 5 meters before the line, and unfortunately bringing him to the end. Oh man, heart-wrenching moment for the drivers, and right up to the line, it was all or nothing for every single one of them. And wow. Just absolutely heart-wrenched for the likes of Buerta, who was going for his first ever victory here in the LMU, and it was snatched right at the last. He does get that second place, and is going to be happy with a good score of points for the Delta Negative team. Put on a stellar run out there. Oh man, what a chase to the line. Esteban Pretorius got the victory ahead, and well, Herman, I've got a funny feeling that Herman's sitting as a spotter and keeping an eye on energy levels of the competitors around for the RTA team. Yep, I would presume that is the case. David Van Veek, who wasn't going to lose out on points, finishes up in 10th, says, what a good race it was, folks, and how close it was to the very end, and good to see him having a bit of fun there as well. So it's always enjoyable to see our competitors really putting on a good show. We're going to see if we can try and get the guys to come and have a chat to us after a stellar race. We're going to get everyone a little bit of time to kind of pull themselves, compose themselves, bring themselves towards oneself, and be part of all the action after a... Oh, man, I can't even say that was the closest finish between each of the drivers. And, well, trying to catch my breath. But let's bring in our LMP3 field to come and have a chat to us first before we move on to our Hypercars, and then we'll end things off with our LMGT3s. We usually start off with the LMGT3s who get to have a chat, but I want to leave them to last because, well, the race we saw out there is well deserved to keep an eye on it. And let's bring in our second place of our LMP3s, and let's have a chat to our current leader of the championship and our Superman of note, Carl Oosthuizen. Welcome to the commentary box. And first of all, you got sent to the Shadow Realm after having a race, but let's take it back a little bit. The start of the race, wet conditions, LMP3s for the very first time. How was it out there at Sebring?
Not nice. It really was not nice. Very bumpy. Car had no grip. Wouldn't turn. Wouldn't accelerate. Especially would not brake. And yeah, it wasn't ideal. But you know, it was the same for everyone. So it is what it is. So it was okay.
Now, take us through the race, because it seemed like you didn't quite have the start that you wanted to have. It was a little bit more on the closer side of things. Qualifying wasn't quite going your way. What was going on there? Take us through what was happening.
To be honest, last night when I was doing a bit of practice on my TLCM pedals, it felt weird. It was clipping, so I was pressing it with my foot, and I pressed a little bit too hard, and the whole load cell exploded. So I quickly ran to Simulator Cave today in Benoni and grabbed a set of Moza SRPs for my Moza wheelbase, and that was me on 1 hour of new pedals, and I literally just recalibrated and updated my pit house just before qualifying started, and I was trying to find settings, and it's not an excuse. I'm not trying to say an excuse. Fafirs was much better than me tonight. He was much more consistent. It's just, it was a struggle, to be honest.
Well, amalgamation of issues. Shout out to Simulator K for going and having some extra pedals for you to get sorted out. Never an easy thing with load cell pedals, getting used to it, trying to get used to the feel, and building up that muscle memory, as each have their own unique nature and different forces. But we saw you into the race. We saw the jump into the shadow realm. You were barrel rolling. You caught the wall. You managed to land on all four tires. Continued an extra couple of laps before pulling into the pits. Take us through what happened that made you start visiting Yu-Gi-Oh on the other side.
Well, I was going to turn one, nice and blind, standard procedure. See a yellow flag, so I start lifting because I can't see, and then I just see Alexis just parking in the middle of the road. So I tried to dodge him because he wasn't holding his brakes, so he was rolling across the racetrack. I wasn't sure if he was going to stop or if he was going to keep rolling or what was happening. And then I decided to do a flip for some style points, and I paid the price. It was a 86-second pit stop. So yeah, that was it, to be honest.
Well, to say Tony Hawk style, you did a phenomenal job, and to get the car back out on circuit to score a second place, the first of your streak that's been broken, and it needed to be done in style. So, 10 points on that one. But now with this race under your belt, new pedals in, what's your game plan heading into round 5 to try and maximize the points, considering Fafirs has just clawed a little bit closer back to you?
Get used to the pedals. Gonna do the 8 hour of Bahrain this weekend. Not in an LMP3, but in a GT3. But I just need to get used to the pedals. I didn't have it tonight, and that's just the way it goes. Fafirs was just better in the wet, better in the changing conditions, better in the dry. So yeah, absolutely, he deserved that one, even without my extra points for cool points for the flip. I think he would have caught me eventually. I was looking forward to a good race, but yeah, it is what it is. I'll see what happens at the next one.
Absolutely. Well, they say there's a band called Skillet and a song that says Victory Line, and in that it says heroes never die, they always get to the victory line, even if they crawl to it. And honestly, well done to you for getting it to the victory line. Anything you would like to say to all our sponsors here at RaceFace.Pro, to the admins, the drivers and teams that are out on the circuit, you versing the competitors, but most importantly to the petrol heads that cheer you on from the sidelines?
Just a shout out to, as always, the admin of RaceFace. Hopefully we get some bigger numbers next week in the class. It's not really on them, but yeah. To all the sponsors, thank you. To Simulator Cave, to Gert, thank you very much for sorting me out today. It was quick to help, so I appreciate that. And then to my team, good job to all the guys. It was a difficult race, especially at the start. Guys had a little bit of an incident with an LMP3, but it's fine, came through. So yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely a good run indeed. And Carl Oosthuizen for Team RTA taking second place in the LMP3 field. Well done to see him there. And absolutely great stuff. And taking home some good points for the championship. But that being said, there can only be one winner in the LMP3s, and that is likes of Jean Fears of the Delta Negative. And Mr. Fears, welcome to the commentary box. You were on fire in these very, very difficult conditions, racing against Kyle Oosthuizen. How are you feeling after going through quite a transition and also pushing a little bit later in your pit stop to go and get that victory?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It worked out kind of like I wanted to. I think I stayed out one lap too long and then overfueled slightly. So Kyle came out ahead of me after the pit stop by like 5 or 6 seconds. But then, I still had to eat up the tire a bit on the dampish track. So I fell back to about 6-7 seconds. And then when my tire started coming back in, I knew I could push. Then started reeling him in slowly, and then not how I wanted to win, but unfortunately Kyle had an incident, I think, with the GT3 just after turn 1, and then I think he probably had damage and had to pit again then. So not how we wanted it. I think it was shaping up for a good battle in the wet. We were very close, matched pace wise. So it shaped up to be a good one for like a 35-minute sprint towards the end. That got taken away from us a little bit, but we'll take the win nonetheless.
He did an awesome kickflip and definitely want to go and take a look at it. But that being said, are you feeling a little bit more positive? You're a bit closer in the championship to him, heading into round 5, and between qualifying, snatching it right at the last week, now taking a victory here at Sebring in these very, very difficult conditions. How are you feeling for round 5?
I'm feeling good. I think the same sentiment as last week. We'll just keep building on the momentum, even though this week's momentum is not completely how I wanted it. But I felt good in the car. I had pace. I think I snatched fastest lap as well by like 3 or 4 tenths over Kyle. So I think I was very happy around Sebring in the cars. It was tricky, but found the setup and just made it work between the wet and dry conditions. So struck a good balance there. Big ups to the team, and then more of the same next week, hopefully.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations with the Delta Negative, getting a good haul of points here tonight, anything you want to say to the sponsors, the admins, to the competitors and teams out on the circuit, and most importantly, to our petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands, cheering on, that had to brave the cold conditions of all the water from you guys getting chucked on them, to the blazing heat and humid conditions that started towards the end of the race.
Thanks everybody watching. Sebring was definitely interesting weather today. So thanks everybody for coming out and bearing through that with us. So thanks everybody for watching. The sponsors making it possible. To the admins behind the scenes as well. Without them, we'd have no one to race against. So thanks to that and RaceFace and all the sponsors affiliated with it. We really appreciate it. And then, special shout out to the LMP3 class. Hopefully be more than 3 or 4 cars on the grid again next week. So come out and race, boys.
Absolutely. And if you are interested in driving the LMP3s, do get in touch and come and enjoy some of the fun. The invite is open to the spectators. Come and join in with the racing. Come and fight it out in a super fun class that's not too far different from driving your GT3 car. So don't be too afraid to take up the challenge. John Fears, congratulations on your victory here at Sebring.
Thanks.
And what a drive it was, fighting out tooth and nail. We have it currently on screen. But let's bring in our Hypercars to come and have a chat to us after quite a run. And man, oh man, it was a chase of note. Let's bring in Martin Jacobs, who went and fought it out. Just want to make sure I've got my orders correct, because everything has now gone completely sideways. It would be Kleinans, then Jacobs. If I remember correctly, yes it is. So let's bring in young Kleinans to come and have a chat to us. Mr. Kleinans, welcome to the commentary box, and what a run on your part to get back onto the podium. It's been a long time waiting. How are you feeling?
Yeah, hi, good evening, Stephen. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a tough start to the season. So I'm happy to be back on the podium. Made a bit of a mistake. I should have honestly been comfortably second, but we take it. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, it was a race of note. We did see you diving into the pits a little bit earlier to try and get a little bit of a run up. Were you feeling that most of the grid were running out of virtual energy, that they needed to do that extra stop? Or did you feel that, hang on, you're a bit more comfortable here and take a different strategy approach?
On the first or the second pit, because I was offset on both. The very first pit, we knew from the start that you sort of had to do 2 pits, or at least a splash on the end, especially with how the track would ramp up in pace. So the one stop was just bound to be slow. I made a mistake. Actually, I had some damage just out of lap 1, and eventually I ended up with a slow puncture on the left rear. So I wanted to get off of those tires as soon as I could, and along with that, I could then help my teammate a bit with telling him if the swap is good enough or not. So I managed to help Chris a bit with that. On the second pit, it was just a splash. It was meant to be a splash, but unfortunately, I mistakenly took tires as well, which is why the last bit was a bit heart in mouth, and I was pushing like crazy.
Honestly, a great run, and gotta say, a stellar run from your side to get that Ferrari 499P, especially since it's a car that many have walked away from. How did it feel to drive that hypercar in the changing conditions from the wet to the dry, which is normally a rather nervous car to be on the threshold for?
Yeah, I think nervous is definitely the right word for it. You know what, the car it has a lot of good strong points, right? But unfortunately, braking is sort of the one rough part, and especially with Sebring being as bumpy as it is, it's so easy to lock. And if you don't have the confidence, you just end up losing, all pace. At the start of the race, and especially in qualifying, it was fairly bad. But you know what? I still like the car. I'm still meshing well with it, and we keep going on.
Well, it was absolutely great to see you finishing up into the top spots. Anything you want to say to our absolutely amazing petrol heads that joined us out on the grandstand in our virtual grandstands, proudly sponsored with all our associate sponsors here at RaceFace.Pro, to anything to the competitors and to the teams out there on the circuit that you got to brawl with during the course of this race here for round 4 of our LMU Championship.
Yeah, as always, thanks to the sponsors. Big congratulations to my team as well, Johan, who won in LMP3. Chris, as always, great show. We keep improving, and we always strive to be the best. So it's good to see the results. The sponsors, of course, thanks for making this a possibility. You, Stephen, for the commentary, and yeah, just all the competitors for competing. It was a good, clean race, so it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely wonderful, and congratulations on that 3rd place and the return back to the podium for the Delta Negative team. Young Kleinans going and putting in a stellar drive in the Ferrari 499P, but was beaten out by the Cadillac of Mon Jacobs. Mon Jacobs, welcome to the commentary box, and first of all, we've got to talk about the strategy that you had, because I think that took everyone by surprise when you opted to go long on a wet set of tires. What was the plan there? Because it was a mission by the looks of it as soon as the track dried up.
Yeah, the plan was to go for a one-stop, and I thought that I would have enough fuel when I pit, and when I came out I saw I was like 2% virtual energy more than Crystal's, and I just realized I underfueled for the last stint, and I just tried to feel safe, and I saw it would have worked. And then just before I went into the pits, I saw I still don't have enough virtual energy and fuel, and the strategy didn't work out as planned.
I mean, take us through the race. You are fighting your way through backmarkers who are in their own races, from their LMP3s to LMGT3s. They going side by side. You're trying to slot in. But as we could see on screen at the moment, you're sliding this car. You're on the ragged edge. You are drifting a hypercar, which generally has a lot of grip. What was going through your head at the time, and how on earth were you managing to control this monster of a car sideways on Sebring while navigating traffic?
I was just thinking of just staying on track, don't make silly mistakes. The car was really loose on under braking. Out of the corners wasn't that big of a problem, but under braking I struggled a lot. And I really didn't expect the wet weather tires to overheat as quickly, and also the track drying out as quickly as it did.
Well, with that being said, you taking over second in the championship, going after Crystals. What is your game plan heading into Bahrain next week to take this Cadillac to a victory?
Yeah, it's just still aiming for my first win. The Cadillac has a lot of performance on Bahrain, so I think I'll have a good chance to win that race, but we'll just see what's going to happen. And
well, it's going to be an exciting one. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebration, any shout out you want to have to anyone on the virtual grandstands, to our sponsors, to the admins, to the competitors and drivers and teams that you had to race with in these mixed conditions out there in one of the most hard-working cars, hands down, for majority of the race?
I just want to say thank you for everyone that joins in the live, and for all my supporters, thank you very much. For all the sponsors that sponsors RaceFace, thank you all for doing that. Yeah.
Well, absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff, and well done on that second place, Martin Jacobs, and managed to run it long with a single set of wet tires. However, it comes down to first place in the hypercars. It's the Delta Negative, Chris Stills, to come and have a chat to us. Chris, another victory underneath the belt for the Peugeot. This time, it looked like you had to work a little bit harder than planned. How are you feeling after that race?
No, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, feeling good. It was definitely a bit of a different race, like a bit more of a strategy race than just outright batting for position. So yeah, no, it was interesting, but it was good fun.
Let's go and talk about navigating through these difficult conditions, because you caught up to the GT3s quite quickly in where it was still rather wet on circuit. As a hypercar, you are nailing it through the corners. You're really hard under braking. You're trying to push that a little bit more. But now you got GT3s that are naturally understeering even more, sometimes getting a bit of oversteer. How were you coping with the traffic here tonight?
Yeah, I think the traffic was difficult for sure. At least there's a lot of straights where you can overtake, but yeah, in the corners you just you catch them so quickly, and it's yeah, definitely a lot of focus. Had to go into just losing as little time as possible and getting through cleanly. Especially in the start, I was on a setup that was more favored towards dry conditions. So yeah, in the beginning of the race, didn't really have the pace and was sliding around a lot, and had to up the TC and all of that stuff just to keep it on the road. But as the track started to dry out more and more, the car started to come towards me, and yeah, it was good.
Well, I mean, it's rather exciting out there, taking another victory, making it 3 victories in a row. What's the game plan looking into Bahrain next week?
Yeah, I mean, quite happy with getting the 3 wins, because some of the tracks didn't think it would be too favorable towards the Peugeot, but yeah, happy to walk away with the 3 wins. And yeah, Bahrain, I think, is a track that I should be all right at. I'm a little bit concerned with the straight line of the caddy off the line. When you can see the last couple of races, Martin is just incredibly quick off the line. So we'll see how it goes in Bahrain. But yeah, at least it's an endurance layout of Bahrain. So we've got that tricky section towards the end of Sector 1, which hopefully the Peugeot is good at and can find some time there.
Well, it's going to be a great one. And before I let you go, anything you would like to say to the virtual grandstands, to the virtual pits, everyone listening out there, and keeping an eye on your victories thus far?
Yeah, just again, always shout out to my family and my girlfriend who's always watching and supporting. Really appreciate it. And then also shout out to Viete for getting his first podium. The win was definitely on the card, so unfortunate, but yeah, just really happy for him. And then yeah, shout out to my team. All of my teammates were all racing tonight and pushing their best and pushing each other. So yeah, shout out to them as well, and to Yuan for getting his first win as well. So yeah.
Absolutely great stuff. Crystal's taking the overall victory here tonight, and the victory in our Hypercar class in the Peugeot. Now it is to be said, we go to our LMGT3s. They kept us busy all night, and we're going to kick it off with our third place, Jan Blicknoot, to come and have a chat to us. Jan Blicknoot, welcome to the commentary box, and man, oh man, what a race. How are you feeling after that?
Hi, Steven. Yeah, I'm disappointed and proud on the same time.
Now, we do know that at the start of the race, it didn't turn out to be in your favor. Unfortunately, a bit of early on contact, but that just evolved the entire race for you. You had to think about different strategies, pit stops, pushing your way back through the field. What was the game plan for your recovery drive to move forward back to where you need to be up towards the podium?
Yeah, turn 1 was a bit of unluck. I pulled out of the spray, and I don't think the P3 saw me on the inside. Then he just closed the door, and he tapped me on the nose, so we both spun. And yeah, so I started to save a bit to maybe go extra lap on the weights, and yeah, I saved 1 lap too much, and I couldn't catch up again to the end. I pushed, and yeah, it was just 1 lap too short.
Now, with that being said, you got into one of the hardest fights at the end against our Chechen driver, Andrei Macheka. I mean, walk us through the side-by-side battles, because you two are both aggressively defensive drivers, and aggressive drivers, naturally your driving styles are right on the edge. You're going to put your nose in there. You're going to put all the cards on the table. It's all in for everything. And it was an absolute brawl. What was going through the mind at that point, or was it just dead silence of, I'm enjoying this type of fight?
Yeah, first of all, great defense to Andre. He made me work for it. But yeah, I pushed for about 3 laps fighting him, tried to get past him, and he did defend well. And then I was like, okay, I'm 3% high on VE on him, so let me push, but also save on the same time. So when it comes to the end of the race, I got more energy, and he starts to save, then I can push past him and try to go and catch Vieti and Estienne in front. And yeah, I just played the long game again, but sadly it didn't work out on the end.
You were still able to get a third place, which is keeping you alive in the points. What's the game plan heading into Bahrain ahead of your teammate Esteban Torres?
Yeah, hopefully I can get in front of him in the race. So as they say, control the race, control the pace. So hopefully I can get P1 in front of him and defend because the BMW is a big boy. Yeah, make it wide and keep him behind me. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one for Bahrain.
Well, absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff. Anything you would like to say to everyone out there in the virtual pits, from our sponsors who are enjoying the VIP stands, but also to our grandstands, our virtual grandstands, with all the supporters out there that was cheering on the battle when we saw you and Andre Macheka for the final 20 minutes of the race? You guys were nose to tail.
Just want to say thank you for the sponsors once again for 3 seasons already. It's always fun that you guys give us this opportunity, and everyone in the grandstands coming out to see us. Hopefully we can make it entertaining each week. And then yeah, I just also want to say unlucky to David. Yeah, his pit crew didn't listen when he gave him the race strat, and yeah, they underfueled him for the wet stint going forward. But yeah, we bounce back in the next one.
I believe it's a chap called Herman the German that went and underfueled him a bit there. We'll definitely have to have a chat to him at some point. But yeah, congratulations on the 3rd place. Looking forward to seeing you in round 5 at Bahrain.
Cool. Thanks, Stephen. Have a good night.
Yeah, and Blickno taking that 3rd place, and what a run from him. Now, oh man, I've been waiting for this, but nervous at the same time. Let's bring in first time out on the podium, and by a single meter, 0.01 across the line. Let's have a chat to Viertier Buerta taking 6th place. Viertier, welcome to the commentary box for Delta Negative. First of all, congratulations on your first podium of the season. I think this is your first podium in the LMU Championship as a whole. But wow, first of all, how was it out there on circuit, leading out the race for quite some time in the damp conditions out there?
Even to be honest, I was lucky, meneer. So this race caught us completely off guard in a sense of, so auto wipers apparently only works if it's raining, all right? So I don't have a key mapped for taking spray off the window. So how I got through the first corner is just staying next to the wall. When I got out of the first corner and I saw how to change I've actually figured out how to change my view to like bumper cam so I can actually try and see something. There was no cars in front of me. I'm like, what the fuck happened here? And that's my basically, and then I just tried to stay ahead.
Well, it was definitely a great one out there. What was your game plan for the pit stop to carry on the momentum? Because we saw you carrying on quite close to the end of the race, just really pushing as far as you can.
Again, like you've done how many races that I ran out of fuel, okay? The VE on this game, on the sim, whatever you call it, catches me off guard every single time. I mean, with 15 laps to go, I'm talking to the guys. I'm like, bro, I've got enough fuel. No worries here. Until Paul eventually asked me, listen, guy, how many VE laps do you have? I'm like, 10. Yeah, you don't have enough, my friend. And then I tried to save. Then the gap came down. The last straight, I completely lifted off the accelerator because I saw the leaderboard go to 0, and I'm like, I don't want the penalty. How do I switch the car off? Let's just coast over. And then yeah, it was a good race. Thanks for the admins for making it interesting for us, eh?
Well, it was rather interesting, and we got confirmation of 0.01 across the line. I mean, seeing Pretoria so close to you, what went through your mind when you came across the line and suddenly you went from first to second with centimeters before the end?
Well, look, Stephen, to be honest, I knew from that they had an incident in turn 1, I believe. For me, it was a matter of time. These guys are coming. Pretorius and Blicknout, they're on a different level. These guys are just quick. So the fact that I pulled a gap on them in like the second stint after the dry tires, I continuously wondered what's happening here. You know, I know these guys are quicker than me. Obviously, at the end, I figured out now, but wait a minute, they're saving fuel and I'm not.
Well, it was still a great one. And we had Anushka Butta as well, cheering you on from the pit wall, going absolutely. And, well, Viertia, well done on a stellar effort for the Delta Negative team and taking that second place. First time on the podium in all 3 seasons. And it looks like all playing well. We're going to be chatting to you again in round 5 at Bahrain.
So, yeah, thanks for her support. Yeah, so she's always there. Thanks to you guys for the stream, the sponsors, and then obviously, you know, the admins for this league that keeps on making us, keeps on surprising us. You know, it's not same old every race. You know, when we started practicing for this, I'm like, yo, boys, what are you doing? And then a twist comes out, like, for instance, now, okay, wait a minute, apparently wipers don't work. You know, it's awesome doing this league.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you in, and it's wonderful to have you on the podium. Viertia Butta taking second place. So close to the end. That virtual energy twisting everything on its head. Now, moving on to our first place, 0.01 across the line. Esteban Pretorius out in the Lamborghini. Man, oh man, what a race for you. Let's start off with getting off a line, huge amount of spray, and suddenly thrown to the back end of the field, having to claw your way back, trying to fight through your teammate to get back towards the podium position. How are you feeling after the first half of the race, where it all just changed underneath you?
No, yeah, it was very difficult. And we, yeah, I don't know what happened on turn 1. I haven't seen the replay, but we had contact and got pushed wide, me and Johan, and I don't know who else was involved. Dropped us down to P9, I think. And from there, it was just fighting back in the wet conditions. Very difficult to see. And yeah, I don't know. It was a very difficult race.
Well, it was a difficult one, but you still managed to fight your way through. Now, take us through the last 3 laps, because that's where it seemed like it all started to get back on pace. You're fighting your way through, but then you had to try and fight for that first place. It came down to the wire. Will you take us through that on-off battle that you're having with Viertia Butta before you got to the line?
So when we pitted, we went a lap longer than Viertia, exactly for the reason that we thought it was going to be necessary to make it to the end. And then we fuel saved an additional lap because I was banking on the race going a lap longer than expected. That strategy went out the window when Chris Stolz had to pit again for fuel. So the race was not going to go an extra lap longer. So then we had to catch Viertia pace. Otherwise, he would have had to pit again. And then he ran out of fuel on the final corner, and I passed him with like 0.0 something seconds on the line. It was very close.
0.01 across the line. It's equivalent to 20 centimeters. I mean, when you nailed it past the line, to suddenly hear you came first, what was running through your head at that time, knowing how close you were to coming in second place and how close that victory was? Because that's the closest victory we have had across all 3 seasons of racing thus far.
Yeah, it's like I said, when Chris went into the pits and the race was no longer going to go an extra lap, I thought it was over. I didn't think I was going to catch Viertia. And then up until the final corner, I did not think I was going to catch him. And then he ran out of fuel. I don't know, 100, 200 meters before the line. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's the closest victory I've gotten as well, I think. I don't think I've ever gotten that close.
And if you look at last week, where it was disaster after disaster after disaster, now to finish up with the closest fight, Are you feeling more confident for round 5? Are you feeling that the competition's there? Are you feeling that the car's there to fight for first position? I mean, you came in tied in this race with Johan Bluknoot. He managed to get a third. You got a first. It's going to be close in points heading into round 5. What's your game plan to take the victory here in the LMGT3 field?
Yeah, it's going to be tough against Johan. He has the pace over me. Again, in this race as well, if he didn't have the incidents he had, he probably would have won the race. But I mean, that's racing. It doesn't always work out, especially, I mean, with what happened to me last week. It doesn't always go your way. So, yeah, we just show up and do our best, see what happens.
Oh, absolutely great to have you here. And before I let you go to enjoy the celebration, and I think wipe the seat down for all the sweat, especially with that close finish, anything you want to say to the virtual pits, the teams, the drivers, to your team as well, to the amazing admin and sponsors we have here in RaceFace.Pro, but also to the entire grandstand that had a gasp of you could hear it from the commentary box as you guys crossed the line. Anything you would like to say to them?
Well, shout out to you, Stephen, for doing the commentary as always. Very fun to watch it afterwards. Wouldn't be the same without it. And shout out to all the RaceFace admin and sponsors and my team RTA. Shout out to Johan for managing to get the third place despite having incidents during the race. And then, yeah, everyone watching.
Absolutely. Esteban Torres, congratulations on your victory in the GT3s for here, round 4 at Sebring for Team RTA. Esteban Torres narrowly across the line, 0.01 across the line. Can you believe it? It has been a race of, well, everything changing out, and we honestly can't wait to see what round 5 looks like next week at Bahrain. Big shout out to our sponsors going and keeping the racing all alive. EG Evolved, Simulator Cave, Rhino Utility, Team SBR, and Virtual MotorHeads, rounding out our sponsors that keep the racing going here at RaceFace.Pro, and a big shout out to them. Also, Simulator Cave assisting assisting the likes of Carl Oosthuizen with a load cell right at the end, and a big thank you to them as well to keep him out on circuit and not to miss out all the action and all the fun. A big shout out to all our admins and drivers and teams joining us here in the series. And we can't wait to see what they can do come round 5. Tomorrow night is going to be our ACC Championship starting at 8 o'clock. We're going to have our Pro and Pro-Am streamed along with our Gold and Silver. Do not miss it. It's going to be an absolutely wild one as we head into round 4 of the championship and seeing who's going to be able to claw their way to victory. You can catch that right here on the RaceFace.Pro channel. Hit subscribe, hit that like as well. Let us know what was your favorite part of the race. Share with all the friends and family and see if you can get a closer finish, even if you try. We want to see all those comments coming in and really looking forward to seeing you guys having a bit of victories. If you want to join us, please head over to SimGrid here at RaceFace.Pro. We're more than welcome to have you into our races from iRacing to LMU and the world of ACC as we getting ready to close up our championships for 2025 a little bit later on, each consisting of 8 rounds. We'd also like to have you guys joining our Discord. All the information you need and links are down below in the description. What an exciting time. What a race. And what an incredible drive by every single one of our drivers here in LMU as they continue to raise the bar for the first time, having LMU Championships going that little bit more right at the end. And honestly, can't wait to see what's next. From myself, Stephen Koenig, from Tim, our cameraman, Jim, our flag marshal, and we'd like to say thank you from THT Productions for all joining us, and for you, the absolute legendary virtual grandstands that keep us going here at RaceFace.Pro and keep all the fun rolling right through to the end. My name is Stephen, and like always, we'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.